Chapter 809, Chu Chang'e. Is this a person of the demon path? Above hung a signboard, Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop. Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop? Chu Chang'e looked at the shop and walked straight in. Inside, various drinks were displayed, and a maid immediately came forward to receive him, asking what Chu Chang'e needed. "I'll just look around," Chu Chang'e softly spoke, heading deeper into the shop. "This customer, I am the shopkeeper of this spiritual wine shop. May I know if you need anything?" Inside the store, a young man who was browsing through books saw Chu Chang'e, put down his books, showed a slight smile, stood up, and courteously spoke. "Zhanzhen." Chu Chang'e looked at the young man in front of him, dressed in a blue silk robe, with an elegant and handsome demeanor, and momentarily hesitated. Even without using the blood snake in his sleeve, he knew that the other was his sister's son, his own nephew. Because he looked so much alike. Especially the facial features around the eyebrows and eyes, the slightly long eye corners when he smiled, just exactly like his sister. "Customer." Lu Chuanjun saw that the other was lost in thought, unchanged in expression, and called out. Sorry, I just got distracted by some thoughts. What types of drinks do you have here?" Chu Chang'e asked softly with an amiable and learned demeanor. Long after Lu Chuanjun, Chu Chang'e walked out of the spiritual wine shop with a smile on his face. They had a simple chat, and the more he observed his nephew, the more pleasant he felt. However, considering his current situation, he did not reveal his identity. He planned to make further contact, get familiar, and see what his nephew's plans for the future were. At that time, as his uncle, he would help if he could. This was also one of his purposes for coming back. To see how his sister was doing and how his nephews and nieces were. Zhao. Lu Chuanjun watched Chu Change's departing figure, his eyes revealing a thoughtful expression. Bihu Mountain. Sar the Nell Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Chu Chang'e turned to look at the shop sign again, planning to find out more about Bihu Mountain. Because they had just chatted, he knew that his nephew was not only the shopkeeper but also the junior owner. This made him curious about Bihu Mountain. After all, except for knowing that his brother-in-law was called Lu Chongxing, he knew nothing else. Moments later, Chu Chang'e found a shop that dealt in information trading. Upon arrival, someone immediately came to inquire, "Taoist friend, may you be seeking some information? Do you have any information about Bihu Mountain here?" Chu Chang'e, in a black wide robe, like a graciously gentle scholar, softly inquired. "Bihu Mountain? Yes, of course." The female cultivator shopkeeper, a 40-something-year-old woman, replied enthusiastically upon hearing this. "Many people, just like Taoist friend, come to our shop to purchase information about Bihu Mountain. If Taoist friend is thinking of visiting Bihu Mountain as a visiting noble servant or an apprentice, our shop has channels for that and can even introduce you." The female cultivator said so. "Oh, is Bihu Mountain that famous?" Chu Chang'e said, slightly surprised. Taoist friend jests, who in Red Leaf Valley Market doesn't know the big name of Bihu Mountain. The female cultivator laughed and said, "What kind of information does Taoist friend need?" "All information about Bihu Mountain." Chu Chang'e spoke. We have it, Taoist friend, please wait a moment." The female cultivator replied, beaming. Soon after, she served Chu Chang'e some tea and went to fetch information about Bihu Mountain. After a while, she came back with a tray carrying 5 jade slips, and said, "Taoist friend, here's the information about Bihu Mountain, a generous price of 100 middle-grade spirit stones." Chu Chang'e nodded, took out a middle-grade spirit stone, then took the jade slips and checked them one by one. Bihu Mountain, once the territory of the Yu family, now the Lu family's domain. Mountain Lord Lu Chongxing, once a son-in-law in the Lu family of Bihu Mountain, attacked the patriarch of the Yu family who interfered with his wife Lu Maeage's foundation establishment, immediately killed 3 great foundation establishers of the Yu family, and took Bihu Mountain from the hands of the Yu family, establishing the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. Mountain Lord Lu Chongxing has 7 wives and 43 concubines. Chu Chang'e had just read the information about the wives and concubines when his face suddenly turned cold, and the teacup in his right hand shattered into powder with a bang. He initially had a fairly good impression of his brother-in-law. One reason was that the other had refurbished their family home and erected monuments for his parents. Another was that he had met this brother-in-law once, 20 years ago. At that time, the other was with his sister, and the two were lovingly close. But now, seeing the information in the jade slip, his so-called brother-in-law actually had 7 wives, over 40 concubines, several maids, and 2 dhow companions. The matter of the children was even more outrageous, with the jade slip only stating that the latest count was 180, with more details unknown. This reminded him of the time he entered Qingzhou Mountain and saw his sister with 10 children by her side. Due to the blood resonance, he thought only 3 were his sisters, with the others likely being children from other families. It now appeared that all 10 children were sired by his cheap brother-in-law. Damn! A cold glint appeared in Chu Chang's eyes. Even if the other had 3 wives and 4 concubines, he could accept and understand. But from all the information in the jade slip, he was unable to accept and even suspected his brother-in-law to be a person of the demon path, practicing some form of dual cultivation absorption technique. Other than this scenario, he simply could not comprehend why a normal cultivator would marry so many spouses. And the number of children made him think of various demonic methods. In the demonic sect, there were many methods of using one's own bloodline children to enhance cultivation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 810, Chu Chang'e. Is this a person of the demon path? Seeing Lu Changsheng's rise, which was filled with legendary hues, moving from a cultivator with a lower-grade spiritual root to his current status, made him seriously doubt if his brother-in-law was a person from the demon path. Under such circumstances, his sister was bound to suffer his oppression. Taoist, what's wrong? The female cultivator in the store heard a thud and felt the temperature inside seem to drop a few notches, giving her the shivers, as she turned to Chu Chang'e and inquired. It's nothing, I was just surprised by the stories about Mountain Lord Lu Chongxing of the Bihu language. Is the information here all true? Chu Chang's expression was indifferent as he tried to keep his tone steady. Of course Mountain Lord Lu has a big name. How could these stories be false? The female cultivator immediately spoke out. Taoist, you must be new to the Red Leaf Valley market, right? If you don't believe it, just ask anyone in this market about Mountain Lord Lu and they will be able to tell you a thing or two. All right. Upon hearing this, Chu Chang's face darkened slightly as he nodded. Then he tossed a spirit stone, walked out of the shop, and disappeared into the crowd. What a strange person. Seeing this, the female cultivator muttered under her breath, but she happily pocketed the spirit stone. For her, this was a considerable income today, as the man did not bargain and even left a middle-grade spirit stone. Yu Country, Jinyang Marketplace. Lu Chongxing came to the market with his wife and children to have fun. Yu Country and Jiang Country were neighbors. Their customs and habits did not show much variation. If one had to point out the differences, it would be in living habits and architectural styles. Speaking of differences, besides Jiang Country, the neighboring countries of Yu included Wu Country and Liang Country. These two countries had some notable differences. Wu Country had many who practiced body cultivation. Normal people almost all cultivated the martial path and were extremely prosperous in that aspect. Liang Country, on the other hand, belonged to the demonic sects and had a widely spread way of cultivation that involved using the blood and souls of fierce and demon beasts to merge into the physical body, cultivating by killing and absorbing blood and evil qi. Yu Country, Wu Country, and Liang Country often experienced frictions and wars. Additionally, to the north of Yu Country, there was a desert oasis. In the midst of the oasis stood the Black Desert Immortal City. This immortal city differed from the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Zhouxiao Immortal City, and Dream Immortal City of Jiang Country. It was a chaotic and special zone. Search * the Novelier. NET website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The entire city was shrouded in mystery. It was only known that there was a mysterious top-level cultivator overseeing it, influencing many surrounding cultivation nations and providing refuge for many wanted cultivators, loose cultivators, and heretic cultivators seeking sanctuary. If the Azure Phoenix Immortal City attracted countless loose cultivators thanks to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, then the Black Desert Immortal City was formed out of the law of the jungle, where survival of the fittest reigned in chaos. Lu Chongxing, through reading books on regular days, had a general understanding of the southern wilderness cultivation realm. However, he knew very little about specific circumstances between these countries, since Jiang country, excluding information about its neighboring Yu country and Jin kingdom, rarely had access to info about other nations. Thus, Lu Chongqing took his wife and children from Jinyang sect to Jinyang marketplace and then to other marketplaces, leisurely touring the secular world, walking and seeing, experiencing the customs of Yu country. "Qing Shan, come with me." That day, after dinner, Lu Chongqing said to his son Lu Qingshan. Having spent a month playing outside with his children, he was ready to use the seed of law on his son to see the effect. And since they had been out for so long, he was also planning to return. "Father, what's the matter?" Lu Qingshan, who had just finished eating and was considering another 2 bowls, looked up and asked upon hearing his father's words. "Just something to discuss with you." Lu Chongqing beckoned. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingshan didn't ask further and stood up to follow Lu Chongqing. Beside them, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaohuan, and Lu Qingzhu watched but did not mind. They guessed that Lu Chongqing was probably preparing to return and had some matters to entrust to his son before parting. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 811. Lu Chuanjin. Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. Inside the room. "Dad, is there something you want to talk about?" Lu Qingshan closed the door and turned to his father with the question. "Qingshan, what are your thoughts about the future?" Lu Chongqing looked steadily at his son and asked calmly. "The future?" Lu Qingshan saw an uncommon serious expression on his father's face. He immediately put away his usual jovial demeanor and pondered for a moment before solemnly saying, "The future is too distant and unpredictable. In my view, life is but a series of joys and grievances. Do whatever you want to do. My goal was to break through foundation establishment early and take little Zhu home to visit you, Mom, and maternal grandpa. Now that you and Auntie have broken through foundation establishment, I don't need to worry about home. As long as the family is well and little Zhu is happy, I can live a carefree and merry life, fully enjoying my triumphs and revenges. If I truly have any ambitions, it would be to diligently cultivate, and one day, achieve core formation, attain a nascent soul, become famous throughout the southern wilderness, and elevate our family to the status of a nascent soul clan. By that time, my name might even merit its own volume in the family records, enshrining my great achievements and becoming a pride of the family." As Lu Qingshan spoke, his face initially remained serious, but as he went on, a conceited smile crept back onto his face. "Heh, your thoughts are indeed unrestrained." Lu Chongqing couldn't help but chuckle when he heard what his son had to say. He then picked up the cup of tea on the table, poured a cup for his son, and said softly, "You should know that cultivation is not as leisurely as your sect makes it out to be, drifting on the clouds and soaring on the sword. To truly succeed on the immortal path, one must forge ahead through thorns and tread a lone path across an army of thousands, where one man's victory is built on the bones of many. My son of course knows, but I firmly believe that only with a fearless heart and bold advancement, cutting down all obstacles, can one truly reach the peak." Lu Qingshan declared with a carefree smile, his face showing a hint of reckless confidence. "Qingshan, the way of the sword is sharp, but in your father's view, the way of the sword is not merely about seeking sharpness. It's said that being too rigid can lead to breakage. Sometimes it's wise to hide your edge in the sheath, appearing blunt to others while using the sharpness to drive oneself." Lu Chongqing paused for a moment, then continued. From spending time together, he knew his son was not only brash but also flashy, with a heart that longed to show off before others. He understood this very well, but he still hoped his son would know when to hold back. "Dad, I understand what you mean and the reasoning behind it," Lu Qingshan replied as he lifted his cup of tea and downed it in one gulp, grinning. "But life is short, and most of it goes contrary to our wishes. Given that, one should enjoy life while one can, and revel in one's successes while they last. Only in this way can one live truly contentedly. Otherwise, if I were to die tomorrow, wouldn't that be a major loss and deeply frustrating? And as you know my temperament, I simply can't be as steady as you, Dad." By the end of his speech, Lu Qingshan found a word to describe his father after a moment of thought. Although he was only at the 7th level energy refinement, his years at the Jinyang sect had given him some insight. He knew his father must have had some significant opportunities and secrets. Otherwise, how could he have risen from a mere son-in-law in Qingzhou Mountain to his current position relying solely on his talent in the talisman path? It was clear he had always been hiding his skills, keeping secrets. As a son, he understood and even admired his father. But he himself could not do the same. His philosophy in life was to strive for greatness but also to seek joy and freedom, to avenge wrongs and bear grudges. If he considered the gains and losses in everything and hesitated in indecision, it would be suffocating for him. Heh. Lu Chongqing heard this and shook his head with a slight chuckle. In his mind, he understood what it meant to be a sword cultivator. His son was truly single-minded. Only with such a temperament could one be fearless and daring, wielding a sword and maximizing the power of the sword technique. All right, since that is the case, your father will give you something that will aid you in the future. As Lu Chongqing spoke, he flipped his palm over and a thumb-sized orb of light, entwined with faint golden light, appeared in his hand. Dad, what is this? Lu Qingshan looked at the seed of law in his father's palm with some astonishment and felt an inexplicable attraction to it. The next moment, he saw the orb of light merge into his brow. Instantly, for golden characters that seemed like iron strokes and elegant as a startled dragon appeared in his mind. Sword charging bull's might? Lu Qingshan looked at the 4 characters in his mind, unsure of what was happening. He saw the orb of light in his mind burst into tiny strands of golden sword qi, shimmering like stars, which filled him with an indescribable thrilling sensation, leaving him feeling ethereal. During this time, the spiritual power within his qi ocean core began to stir gently, with strands of golden light coursing through his dantian and meridians. Throughout this process, his already profound spiritual power was reinforced, and his dantian and meridians expanded. A moment later. Sar the novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Boom! An inner stillness settled over Lu Qingshan. His cultivation level had broken through from the 7th level energy refinement to the peak of the 8th level energy refinement. And it seemed as though an eye had opened in his brow. Through this eye, he could clearly see his surroundings. Furthermore, he realized clearly that the advancement of his cultivation level was just a byproduct. What was truly astonishing was that his qi ocean core had nearly doubled in size. Storage of spiritual power, which was previously full, was now reduced to half. This remaining half of spiritual power was even more potent and vigorous than before. The effect is quite noticeable. Lu Chongqing observed the changes in his son, raising an eyebrow. The seed of law had effects that could enhance talent, sharpen the senses, ease temperament, elevate character, and compensate for deficiencies. But these effects were not immediate. They would slowly take effect over time, as cultivation improved, temperament aligned, gradually manifesting. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 812. Lu Chuanjin. Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. So Lu Chongqing, upon seeing his son just receiving a Dao seed and immediately breaking through in cultivation level, increasing his foundation, and birthing divine sense, was slightly surprised. He knew that this improvement might seem small, but say nothing else, in the future, foundation establishment would be easily achievable for Lu Qingshan. This also made Lu Chongqing somewhat expectant of his son's future. After all, the greatest effect of this Dao seed was to enhance the sword Dao talent. Through enhancing the sword Dao talent, comprehension, foundation, combat power, cultivation speed, and other aspects, he would be able to make rapid progress solely in the sword Dao. Dad, what is this? Lu Qingshan opened his eyes, a face full of surprised confusion, not yet understanding what was going on. This is a sword Dao seed that your father obtained from abroad, and after use, it can enhance one's sword Dao talent. But this sword Dao seed does not match your father's temperament. Ia the novel _Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Only someone with a proud and valorous spirit, fearless and relentless, can see its effects. So your father thought about it, and decided to give this sword Dao seed to you, hoping that your path to immortality will be smoother, Lu Chongqing said with a light chuckle. Dad, you're so good to me, truly my real dad. Do you have any other treasures suitable for me? Lu Qingshan immediately sidled up, his face ingratiating. Lu Chongxing. Go, go, go. He pushed away his son with a look of disgust, then took out a jade slip and said, The great Gungjin sword art you are currently cultivating suits you well, but your father happens to have a sword technique cultivation method. Take a look now, it might be of good reference. He was always concerned about his son's cultivation methods. Over these days, he had learned that the sword technique his son was cultivating was called Great Gungjin Sword Art. This sword technique matched perfectly with the Gungjin body constitution. That was why Tianyuan True Immortal was adamant about taking Lu Qingshan as a disciple, to pass down this sword technique. Although this sword technique cultivation method was only of peripheral sect level, and not as profound as his own 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. But at this stage, this sword technique truly suited Lu Qingshan more than the 7 luminaries' sword scripture. Because the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture requires balancing the yin and yang, the 5 elements, and 7 attributes. If Lu Qingshan were to cultivate the 7 luminaries' sword scripture now, it could even affect the efficacy of his Gungjin body constitution. Thus, Lu Chongxing did not think of having him switch cultivation paths, and showed the 7 luminaries' sword scripture to his son, hoping it would be of some help. Technique. Lu Qingshan, hearing this, took the technique jade slip from his father's hands with a look of surprise. After a while, having read the content of the technique, he gasped and said to Lu Chongxing, Dad, you are the heavenly chosen son from the stories, aren't you? Wait. I'm the real heavenly chosen son. Dad, you have all these opportunities and good fortune, but they don't suit you and eventually all fall to me, making wedding clothes for me, ha ha ha. I really am a man of great fortune. Dad, rest assured, when I make it big in the future, I definitely won't forget you. I'll duly honor you, capturing all the fairies and demons for you. Lu Qingshan, hands on his hips, laughed uproariously. Naughty boy, you're so grown up and yet you can't behave properly. Lu Chongxing, seeing his son's silly face, knocked on his head, causing Lu Qingshan to immediately hold his head in pain. He then let his son ponder over this technique in the coming days. The matter of the technique and the sword Dao seed absolutely must not be made known to others. Dad, don't worry, I'm not stupid. I definitely won't let others find out. Lu Qingshan, mouth askew, said, rubbing his still slightly painful head. He thought to himself if his old dad had also refined his body. Such strength in his blow. All right, stop messing around, come on. Lu Chongxing spoke to his son and stood up to open the door. Dad, Mom will definitely secretly ask me what you wanted with me. If I say you gave me some treasures and you didn't give anything to little Zhu, wouldn't that seem biased? Lu Qingshan hurriedly followed, chuckling. That's not for you to worry about. Your father has already prepared everything. Lu Chongxing chuckled lightly, thinking to himself that at least he knew to secure benefits for his sister. Dad, you have more treasures, let me see? Lu Qingshan again made a face of flattery. Roll, 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 go away. Lu Chongxing, with a look of disdain, waved his hand, feeling this son was shameless. Where was there any hint of the typical cold and taciturn demeanor of a sword cultivator? But he felt much more at ease with this kind of temperament. If his son were one of those sword cultivators with a proud and sharp demeanor, looking down on others, his personality would worry him, and he wouldn't feel comfortable giving him the Dao seed. Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Chuanjin looked at the sky gradually darkening outside, stepped out of the shop, and headed to the enforcement hall of the market. Chuanjin cousin. Have you come here for something? A Lu family disciple from Qingzhou Mountain, seeing Lu Chuanjin, asked aloud. Due to the relationship between Bihu Mountain and Qingzhou Mountain, the disciples of the same generation refer to each other as cousins. Mu Jun cousin, I came here to check the marketplace's city entry registry information today, Lu Chuanjin said. City entry registry information. Is there a robber cultivator or heretic cultivator mixed into the marketplace? The Lu family disciple asked seriously upon hearing this. That's not it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 813. Lu Chuanjin. Chuanjin pays respect to uncle. Using the Jade Scroll, based on the timestamp, Lu Chuanjun immediately identified a name, Zhao Changhe. Zhao Changhe, 9th level energy refinement. Lu Chuanjun muttered to himself as he looked at the name. Then, using the jade scroll again to check the identity jade of the other party, he viewed the trajectory of his movements within the marketplace. Upon seeing that the other party had headed straight to his spiritual wine shop after entering the marketplace and then went to the Tion's everything shop after leaving, his gaze sharpened slightly. Thank you, Cousin Mu Jun. Lu Quanzhen's expression returned to normal as he gave his thanks with clasped hands. Hee, Cousin Chuanjun is too polite. This Lu family disciple said cheerfully. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Lu Chuanjun bid his farewell and made his way to the Tion's everything shop. Through inquiries, he learned that today a young man in a black robe had come here to purchase information about Bai Lake Mountain and had acted somewhat oddly. Master Lu. Source. Web novel. Com, updated on N0New0. The shopkeeper, a middle-aged female cultivator, looked somewhat flustered as she faced Lu Chuanjun. She had not expected selling one piece of information today to trouble the young master from Bai Lake Mountain enough to prompt his visit. Just act as if nothing happened. Lu Chuanjun spoke with a calm demeanor, walked out of the store, paused for a moment to ponder, and then headed to a tavern. After asking around, he went to the 6th floor of the tavern and came to a room, knocking softly and saying, Daoist Zhao. Chu Changge inside the room immediately recognized that it was Lu Chuanjun outside. He wondered why Lu Chuanjun had come to find him, especially since he did not recall giving Lu Chuanjun this address. Come in. He lifted his palm slightly, and the door swung open. Daoist Lu, what brings you here to see Zhao? Chu Changge looked at Lu Chuanjun with a calm and detached expression. Chuanjun pays his respects to uncle. Lu Chuanjun bowed deeply as he greeted. You called me what? Chu Changge was taken aback, his hand trembling slightly beneath the black wide robe, his voice sinking. Uncle. Lu Chuanjun continued. How did you know about me? Chu Changge did not deny it but instead asked aloud. He did not understand how, after seeing this nephew only once and having brief chat, the other side could have discerned his identity. Because uncle came to see me today, and your behavior and mannerisms were a bit off, which led me to this conjecture. Seeing that the other had not denied it, Lu Chuanjun knew he had guessed correctly. This made him pause internally, uncertain about the purpose of the other's visit. After all, when he was handling affairs at Rui Marquis Mansion in the mortal world, he had received a piece of news. His uncle Chu Changge had not died but had turned to demon cultivation. Oh. Chu Changge still did not see where he had given himself away, a smile emerging on his face as he spoke with interest. Tell me, how did you conjecture it? Saying this, he gestured for Lu Chuanjun to sit down, then started to prepare tea. Uncle came today, and his behavior did not seem like he was there to do business but rather to converse with me, which I found quite inexplicable. Lu Chuanjun gently pinched the talisman in his sleeve, then seated himself at the table and said with reverence, During our conversation, I was extra cautious and, through your accent and surname, I came to this suspicion. Accent, surname? Chu Changge seemed oblivious to the talisman in his nephew's sleeve, his face full of smiles, beckoning him to continue. That's right, I once lived in Zhoushan Mansion for quite some time, and noticed a certain familiarity in your accent. Then uncle, you used the surname Zhao, and it happens that my maternal grandmother's surname is Zhao. Also, my mother often reminisces about uncle, telling stories about you to us siblings, so I speculated about your identity. Lu Chuanjun explained as such. It shouldn't be just these reasons, should it? Chu Changge looked at his nephew, smiling as he spoke. He felt that just these few conditions were not enough. Today, after I had my suspicions, but was still unsure, I went through the marketplace to check today's city entry records. I saw the fake name Zhao Changhe that uncle used, and then noticed that uncle came directly towards me, and afterwards purchased information about Bai Lake Mountain, which gave me some confidence. Lu Chuanjun continued calmly. There must be other reasons too, right? Chu Changge still wore a smile. Seeing his nephew infer so much from their simple conversation today brought him a great deal of satisfaction. Truly worthy of being a child of the Chu family, so astute. I was not entirely certain of the matter either. I just felt it was a possibility, so I came over to ask. I did not expect uncle to admit it straightforwardly. This is what Lu Chuanjun said. But if that's so, Why were you holding a talisman in your sleeve? Chu Chang'e asked with a smile, his demeanor easygoing and refined. Seeing Lu Quanzhen's expression change, he immediately raised his hand and said, Chuanzhen, no need to be nervous, uncle is just asking casually. At this moment, he candidly revealed his own identity. Since his nephew had already recognized him, he had nothing left to hide. I didn't expect uncle to have noticed. Lu Chuanzhen felt a chill in his heart, not expecting his uncle to be aware that he was hiding a talisman in his sleeve. This indicated that the other party was definitely not merely at the 9th level energy refinement but had broken through to foundation establishment. Only the divine sense of foundation establishment could possess such keen insight. This revelation struck him with amazement, as he had not expected this uncle whom he had never met to be a foundation establishment great cultivator. Faced with this situation, he knew he couldn't play any tricks in front of the other. He immediately took out the talisman hidden in his sleeve, placed it on the side, and said with a bitter smile, Because my mother often mentions uncle, and our family has always been looking for you, but there has been no news. Thinking that we should see each other alive or at least find the body if dead, so in my early years when I was handling affairs in the secular world, I investigated uncle's information and learned that 30 years ago in Zhoushan Mansion, a demon cultivator appeared. And this demon cultivator is very likely to be you, uncle. So on this trip, I came with some caution in my heart. I hope uncle won't take offense. Lu Chuanzhen no longer concealed anything and spoke openly. He knew that he couldn't play games in front of the other and could only bet that the other had no ill intent. A demon cultivator. Chu Chang'e immediately knew it must be the time when he returned home years ago, only to discover that his entire family had been wiped out, which caused the demonic blood within him to erupt. He laughed and said, Hee, what's there to take offense at? In the cultivation world, it is necessary to be extra cautious. Yes, many years ago, due to some reasons, I walked the demon path and became a demon cultivator. Chu Chang'e admitted candidly. Then his facial features blurred for a moment as his disguise faded and he restored his true appearance. Although he regained his original look, his current appearance and demeanor were quite different from the uncle's temperament Lu Chuanzhen had learned about from his mother Chu Zhenshen's descriptions and images. His face was stern, and there was an inexplicable demonic aura between his eyebrows. Zhenshen, how has your mother been these past years? Chu Chang'e continued to speak, his voice somewhat hoarse and trembling. He had intended to go directly to Bai Lake Mountain today to see how his sister was doing, and to teach her husband a lesson. But after reading the information and making some simple inquiries, he learned that Lu Chongxing had a rather good reputation and was not the kind of energy-draining heretic cultivator or demon cultivator he imagined. In particular, he was famously good to his wives, and his sister Chu Zhenzhen was one of his official wives, not just a concubine. Consequently, he thought about further contact with his nephew, and to visit Bai Lake Mountain later, not expecting his nephew to take the initiative to come to him. Mother has been quite well these years, it's just that she often mentions uncle, as well as my grandparents. Ch novel, F. Iyer. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And then these past years I've caused mother some worry. Lu Chuanzhen began, slowly voicing his mother's situation. He roughly guessed that his uncle must have achieved success in cultivation, which is why he came back to visit his mother. Because from his mother's stories, he knew that the siblings were very close, and that his uncle was always especially caring towards her, his sister. Faced with this, he also played the familial card as much as possible to stabilize his uncle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 814. The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Gu. Red Leaf Valley Market. In a room of a restaurant, Chu Chang'e listened to his nephew's recount of their life over the years, the family situation, and the condition of his sister, Chu Zhenzhen. Learning that after so many years his sister's nature was still carefree, naive, and cheerful as before, a hint of a smile emerged on his stern face, and the malevolent and evil chi between his brows softened considerably. Especially when he heard his nephew helplessly express that he and his siblings were being urged to marry by their mother, Chu Zhenzhen, and he had no choice but to run here to manage the business. He couldn't help but chuckle. Chuanzhen, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen. Chu Chang'e muttered the names of his 4 nephews and nieces. He knew that among the 4 nephews, Lu Chuanjun and Lu Caizhen possessed spiritual roots, while Lu Yuzhen and Lu Huaizhen were without, merely mortals. Sir the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But the spiritual roots of Lu Chuanjun and another were poor, possessing only 8th grade spiritual root and 9th grade spiritual root. Chuanjun, what are your plans for the future? What do you desire? Chu Chang'e asked gently. Plans? Desires? Lu Chuanjun paused upon hearing his uncle's words, unsure if the other was testing him or was sincere. After a moment of thought he said, I am quite satisfied with my current life. My only hope is that in the future I can break through to foundation establishment so that I too have the ability to protect my family, protect my mother, brothers and sisters. If I were to think further ahead, perhaps I would hope to explore the world after achieving foundation establishment. Lu Chuanjun said. Although these words were not his complete thoughts, they were truly from his heart. Break through foundation establishment, go out and see the world. Chu Chang'e nodded slightly. From the chat just now, he could see that his nephew was a very clever and opinionated person. These words might not be completely genuine, but they did contain quite a bit of truth. He understood this. Having met only a short while ago, how could the other completely trust him? Perhaps this nephew was only chatting with him because he was apprehensive of Chu Chang'e, unaware of his real situation. He whispered, with your 8th grade spiritual root, it won't be easy to break through foundation establishment. True, but I believe in making efforts. Lu Quanzhen's expression was firm as he seriously said, my father only had a 9th grade spiritual root, but he still became a foundation establishment cultivator. With the support of our family now, as long as I work hard, there is hope to break through foundation establishment. Lu Chongxing, when Chu Chang'e heard this, he looked at his nephew's determined expression, slightly startled. From information he naturally knew of his cheap brother-in-law situation, and therefore suspected the other had turned to the demon path, the heretical path. After all, for a cultivator with a lower-grade spiritual root to hope for foundation establishment was exceedingly difficult, let alone 9th grade spiritual root. He asked, do you respect your father a lot? Yes, my father might have some shortcomings, but he is very kind to our mother, to us siblings. Lu Chuanjun recounted some family issues and his father, Lu Chengsheng's matters. Like scrimping and saving, using cultivation resources for their stepmother and mother, laying foundations for himself and others. Mostly establishing the family for their sake, even if the family was always in deficit, to ensure they had sufficient cultivation resources and welfare benefits. As for his father's marriage and concubine matters, as a son, he felt it inappropriate to comment further. Listening to these words prompted Chu Chang'e to show a thoughtful look, somewhat eager to meet this cheap brother-in-law of his. His instincts told him that his brother-in-law surely had a big secret. Chuanjun, with your 8th grade spiritual root, it will be difficult for you to break through foundation establishment in the future. This elixir medicine is called Heaven Replenishing Elixir. It has the effect of refining pure cultivator's spiritual roots. Take this elixir and it will enhance your spiritual root, aiding you. Chu Chang's hand revealed a black jade porcelain bottle, which he handed to Lu Chuanjun. He knew his nephew didn't trust him yet. So, he planned to let the other drop their guard by offering benefits. Moreover, the biggest barrier currently preventing his nephew from breaking through foundation establishment was his spiritual root. Since that was the case, by enhancing his spiritual root, wouldn't that solve the problem? Heaven Replenishing Elixir, pure spiritual root effect. Lu Chuanjun, hearing this, looked at the porcelain bottle, his mental spirit shocked, unsure whether to believe these words. Even though he had never heard of the Heaven Replenishing Elixir, he knew such elixir medicines capable of enhancing spiritual roots were extremely precious heavenly and earthly treasures. Once news spread, who knew how much chaos, bloodshed, and even coveting by nascent soul immortals it might incite. His uncle was actually able to produce such a rare elixir medicine, which made him inherently suspicious. But this elixir was obtained by chance. I'm not entirely sure of its efficacy or nature. Dare you try it? Chu Chang'e said with a smirk. Since uncle intends it, I am naturally willing to try. Lu Chuanjun thought for a moment and responded respectfully. He felt that the other had no reason to harm him. If he wanted to kill him, he could just act directly. Unless the other intended to control him through the elixir, thus targeting by Lake Mountain. But that seemed unlikely. Moreover, He dared to come over this time, having some preparation. It was the substitute talisman given by his father, Lu Chongqing, which could be activated to escape in any danger. He took the porcelain bottle, opened it, and poured out an elixir about the size of a longan, radiating a shimmering luster. The elixir medicine seemed to possess life, its glow flickering now and then, currents of light autonomously flowing. Heaven-replenishing elixir. Lu Chuanjin gazed at the elixir medicine in his hand, his pupils constricting slightly. Based on the appearance alone, it was evident that this elixir medicine was extraordinary, different from the usual kinds. Immediately, he swallowed the elixir medicine. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:15. The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Goo. Boom! The moment Lu Chuanjin took the elixir medicine, an extremely mysterious sensation immediately surged through his body. Spiritual root. His spiritual root was throbbing. A mysterious force was causing his spiritual root to pulsate. Faced with this situation, Lu Chuanjin hurriedly sat cross-legged without moving and began to assimilate the effects of the elixir medicine. Hee. Chu Chang'e watched his nephew acting so resolutely and decisively. Without any hesitation or delay, a smile appeared on his face. He said the medicinal effects and properties of the elixir medicine were all intentionally misleading. He wanted to see how his nephew would react. At this moment, seeing his nephew behave in such a way, he was very satisfied. On one hand, he was satisfied with his nephew's trust in him. On the other hand, he was satisfied that his nephew acted decisively. After all, the cultivation world highly disapproved of indecisive characters. His own nephew was not only careful and intelligent, recognizing him as an uncle through simple conversation, but also had a stable character. Even when he discovered a hidden talisman, his expression changed only slightly before returning to normal. Now, facing the elixir medicine given by himself, his nephew's decisiveness, without any hesitation, filled him with relief. He believed that his nephew would have no difficulty in achieving foundation establishment in the future. As for core formation, that would depend on his fate. However, when that time came, he, as an uncle, would not mind helping a bit more if he could. Time passed bit by bit. After a long while, Lu Chuanjin opened his eyes and could distinctly feel that his spiritual root had improved. However, he himself was not clear by how much. Chu Chang'e stepped forward, placed his palm on his nephew's shoulder, and checked the condition of his spiritual root. At this moment, Chu Chang'e noticed a spirit talisman within his nephew's sea of consciousness at the brow chakra. This talisman was extraordinary, probably reaching the 3rd rank. He did not touch the talisman. He realized it must be the life-saving talisman of his nephew. As for how it came into being, knowing his brother-in-law's reputation as a second-order top-level talisman master, he guessed it must have been given by him. He was pleased that someone could give such a rare spirit talisman to his nephew. Not bad. 4th grade spiritual root. Chu Chang'e withdrew his hand and said with a light chuckle, 4th grade spiritual root. Lu Chuanjin was shocked upon hearing this. He knew that a 4th grade spiritual root was already a middle grade top-tier spiritual root, just one step away from becoming a high-quality spiritual root. With an 8th grade spiritual root, he could not guarantee a breakthrough in foundation establishment in the future. But now, with his own 4th grade spiritual root, he was confident that he could surely succeed in foundation establishment. Chuanjin thanks uncle. Lu Chuanjin looked at Chu Chang'e in front of him, took a deep breath, and respectfully bowed. At this moment, he knew his uncle was no ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. An ordinary foundation establishment cultivator could never produce such a level of elixir medicine. Nor could they easily give such a rare elixir medicine to him. What are you thanking for? Just take this fruit as well. Chu Chang'e then took out a fist-sized purple-golden fruit. It had patterns resembling dragon scales and was emanating a rich and fragrant scent. Uncle, one should not accept rewards without merit. With the earlier heaven-replenishing elixir, Chuanjin already doesn't know how to thank you, let alone accept such a precious spirit fruit. Lu Chuanjin spoke respectfully. He did not recognize the fruit in front of him. but he could tell from its quality that it was no ordinary item. At this moment, he truly didn't understand what his uncle was up to, giving him things so generously upon their first meeting. He had not even recovered from the shock of having a 4th-grade spiritual root and wanted to experience the effects through cultivation. This is an introductory gift from your uncle, just a token of affection. Please accept it. Chu Chang'e asserted, his voice carrying an undeniable firmness. Thank you, uncle. Lu Chuanjun, hearing this, took a deep breath, took the spirit fruit, bowed deeply, and then took a bite. But the dragon scale fruit was very hard. He was not able to bite through it. This spirit fruit is known as the dragon scale fruit. It has marrow cleansing and hair furrowing effects, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation. To consume it, you need to crack it open with an instrument made of gung metal. Chu Chang'e softly explained and took out a small golden hammer, tapping it gently on the dragon scale fruit, causing the scales to fall off. Dragon scale fruit? Marrow cleansing and hair furrowing, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation? Lu Chuanjun, upon hearing this, looked at the dragon scale fruit in his hand with a doubtful expression and asked, Uncle, do I need to return to my home's practice room and enter closed-door cultivation to consume it? Either way, Chu Chang'e said indifferently. CTH novel, F. Iyer. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing his uncle say this, Lu Chuanjun did not ask further. After a moment, when the dragon scale fruit was completely cracked open, it turned into a fruit glowing with a golden sheen. Lu Chuanjun didn't hesitate. Under Chu Chang'e's watchful eyes, he consumed the fruit. The fruit was fragrant and melted in the mouth. Then it turned into a majestic and pure power that surged into every limb and every vein. At this moment, Lu Chuanjun only felt a warm sensation all over his body. But when the dragon scale fruit was completely consumed, this essence of mighty power swept through his body like a towering giant wave. Boom, boom, boom. Inside Lu Quanzhen's body, it was like a volcanic eruption, rumbling loudly, his body continuously trembling, and filthy blood and sweat oozing out from his pores. Chuanjun, the process will be a bit painful. Chu Chang'e said softly, flicking out small flags, forming a prohibition in the room to prevent too much disturbance. After all, although the room was equipped with a prohibition, it was merely a simple soundproofing, and not very effective. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Lu Chuanjun didn't speak, nor could he. His face showed a look of pain. He felt every inch of his skin and every piece of flesh undergoing an indescribable transformation. An extreme pain. Despite the pain, he could clearly feel his physical body growing stronger, expelling impurities, and making his meridians and bones much tougher. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:16. The Wealthy Uncle. Phoenix Goo. At the same time, his bottleneck at the 6th level energy refinement was also breached in that moment. Effortlessly, as naturally as water flowing into a channel. After breaking through to the 7th level energy refinement, his cultivation level continued to climb. 7th level energy refinement peak. Ia the Novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 8th level energy refinement. Boom! In a short while, his cultivation level had broken through to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, this cultivation level continued to rise, almost reaching the peak of 8th level energy refinement. In that moment, even Lu Chuanjun himself was astonished. He felt the effects of the dragon scale fruit were too exaggerated. It had allowed him to break directly from the 6th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, he could distinctly feel that, compared to the rise in cultivation level, the main enhancements provided by the dragon scale fruit were to his physical body, meridians, bones, and foundation. He opened his eyes and saw a stench surrounding him. Beside him, Chu Chang'e gently lifted his hand, and a breeze dispersed the foul stench and impurities from Lu Quanzhen's body, turning them into flying ash. Chuanjun thanks uncle. At this moment, Lu Chuanjun was almost at a loss for words. Facing his uncle, he sincerely knelt down and paid his respects. If he had had any suspicion or doubt about this uncle before, the heaven-replenishing elixir and the dragon scale fruit had dispelled all such feelings. There simply was no need. If the other party truly had ill intentions against him, why would they spend such a great cost? The elixir and fruit were indeed priceless treasures, impossible to measure with spirit stones. Someone as insignificant as him was definitely not worth such a great cost pursued by the other party. So it was purely out of kinship, because of his mother, that he was treated so kindly. Chuanjin, no need to be so formal. Chu Chang'e showed a smile on his face, sensing genuine sincerity in his nephew's words. He knew at this moment his nephew had come to trust him. He then asked, "Your mother, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen, do they usually stay at By Lake Mountain?" "Yes, mother usually spends her time at By Lake Mountain and seldom goes out. If uncle wishes to see mother, I can invite her to stay in Red Leaf Valley Market for a while. She would certainly be very happy to learn that uncle is still alive." Lu Chuanjin said, his tone becoming more intimate as he spoke to Chu Chang'e. "You country. In a courtyard. What is going on?" Lu Chongxing was utterly confused. He had just felt a profound and mysterious fluctuation, immediately realizing that a child with a 4th-grade spiritual root had been born. But the next moment, he realized he should not have any children being born right now. Then, after checking through the system, he saw no birth of a newborn. This left him very confused. Then, just as he was pondering over what was happening, thinking it was a misconception, suddenly another wave of mana surged out of nowhere, forming a droplet of liquid mana. This mana was not much, but it was the most mana bonus he had ever received. Even more than when his son, Lu Qingshan, broke through from the 7th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. This? Lu Chongxing was very confused. "Chongxing, what's wrong?" Beside him, Lu Miaoge noticed her husband looked troubled and immediately expressed concern. "It's nothing, just thinking about something." Lu Chongxing shook his head as he spoke. But his curiosity could not be suppressed, claiming he had a sudden spark on the talisman path and needed to digest it. Faced with this reason, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaohuan, and others did not press further. Soon after, Lu Chongxing went to his room and began checking on his children's conditions through the system. After a long time, name, Lu Chuanjin, lifespan, 28 of 111, talent, 4th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 8th level energy refinement, talent, management compatibility, 61%. What's going on? How did Quanzhen's spiritual root become 4th grade, and how did he suddenly break through from 6th level to 8th level energy refinement? Lu Chongxing looked at his son's attribute panel, completely baffled. If it were just a breakthrough from the 6th level to the 7th level, he could understand. After all, it was normal for Lu Chuanjin, who had been at a bottleneck for many years, to make a breakthrough. But the problem was, not only did the cultivation level break through 2 levels, but the spiritual root also upgraded from 8th grade to 4th grade. Could Chuanjin have encountered some situation, some fortuitous event? But isn't he still managing business at the Red Leaf Valley Market right now? And the heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance a spiritual root are at least 3rd rank, extremely rare. Given Quanzhen's situation, it should be very difficult for him to come into contact with such items. Lu Chongxing was very puzzled and really wanted to go home to see what was going on with this son. But at this moment, he could only suppress the curiosity and confusion in his heart. When he returned to the courtyard, the sky had already darkened. Lu Chongxing called his wife to bed, talking about going back. Hearing this, the 2 women also knew that they had been out for quite a while. They suggested that once this trip was nearly over, they would send the children back to the Jinyang sect and then start their journey home. Jin Kingdom, 5 Poisons Cult. Inside a magnificent hall, Nangong Mili, in a purple palace dress, her figure graceful and enchanting, gazed at the dark golden bowl covered in patterns in her hands. Within the bowl, there was a goo resembling a silkworm, its body golden and translucent, twinkling brilliantly. This goo insect had streams of resplendent luster flowing through it, dreamy and illusory, as if a silkworm cocoon. Yet, amidst the luminous diffusion, it constantly transformed its appearance and shape, at moments resembling a purple butterfly emerging from its cocoon, at others a mythical phoenix born of fire, mysterious and magnificent, dazzling and enchanting. Phoenix goo. Nangong Mili watched the goo, her emotions swirling complexly. When she first heard about the Lockhart goo from her disciple Meng Xiaochan, She immediately applied to the sect for a phoenix goo, hoping to use it to neutralize the effects of the Lockhart goo. But phoenix goo was rare, and the only one in the sect had been used by the 5 Poisons sect leader for healing. Because of this, she waited 10 years, only today obtaining a newly refined phoenix goo. Lu Chongqing. Nangong Mili's sensually red lips parted slightly, and in her mind appeared the image of a handsome man. For these 10 years, she had been trying her best to forget Lu Chongqing. Due to the Lockhart Gus effects, which made one uncontrollably develop romantic feelings for the host. These feelings of love would ferment over time and interaction, growing stronger and stronger, until one was hopelessly in love, wholeheartedly devoted, even losing oneself. For these 10 years, although she had stayed away from Lu Chongqing and tried to suppress her feelings, the past interactions, the misty sky bead inside her body, the golden core charm, her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, all made it impossible for her to completely forget him. At this moment, she even doubted whether her feelings and impressions of Lu Chongqing came from the Lockhart goo or were genuinely from her heart. Real yet false, when false is real. Real becomes false, false becomes real. Who can distinguish? I, Nangong Mili, even if I were to like a man, would not be overly sentimental and sensitive. Nangong Mili's expression turned cold and indifferent, her phoenix eyes clear and piercing, as she cast aside the chaotic thoughts in her mind. She then sent a message to her disciple Meng Xiaochan, stating that she intended to undergo closed-door cultivation, asking her to take good care of her daughter Nangong Yaoyao during this time. When mentioning her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, a radiant maternal smile immediately appeared on her charming and bewitching face. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 817. This guru doesn't seem very reliable. Jinyang sect, outside the mountain gate. Qingshan, take good care of your sister. Little Zhu, your parents will come to visit you whenever they have time. Lu Chongqing bade farewell to his children. Were it not for the unusually deep master-disciple relationship in the cultivation world, and Tianyuan True Immortal's decent treatment of his children, he would have wanted to take his children back home. Search *the Defied. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. It wasn't that he was opposed to them becoming disciples and cultivating within the immortal sects. It was really because traveling from Bai Lake Mountain to Jinyang sect was too far and inconvenient, leaving him worried. Beside him, Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan also watched their children with faces filled with reluctance. Dad, Mom, Auntie, don't worry, I will definitely take good care of my sister, Lu Qingshan said with a determined and serious expression. Perhaps it was the effect of the seed of law, but when he was serious, his brows had an added sharpness. Daddy, Mommy, Auntie. Lu King's eyes brimmed red, veiled with mist, filled with reluctance. Sigh. Seeing his daughter like this, Lu Chongqing sighed in his heart, holding his daughter feeling very heartbroken. He knew that Tianyuan True Immortal was mainly taking his son as a disciple. The daughter was merely incidental. That was why he had previously asked his daughter whether she wanted him to wait here for Tianyuan True Immortal to return, to see if he could take his daughter back home. But his daughter could not bear to leave her brother, Lu Qingshan, alone at the sect. Little Zhu, be good. Lu Miaoga, deeply reluctant as well, held her daughter. Qingshan Qingzhu? As the family said their farewells, unable to part, a languid and alluring voice sounded. A giant gourd descended from the sky, upon which a mature voluptuous woman sat wearing a bright red ornate dress. Her ample curves fully conveyed a ripe lazy charm, holding a red wine gourd in her hand, making her exquisitely beautiful face appear flushed and all the more enticing. Master! Master! Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu, seeing the woman, promptly called out. Greetings, True Immortal! Lu Miaoga recognized the identity of the woman in the red dress. It was indeed their children's master, Tianyuan True Immortal. Master True Immortal? Lu Chongqing was somewhat surprised to see the woman. He hadn't expected his children's master to have such a hedonistic appearance. No wonder his son said that this master didn't care for managing matters, often absent from the sect. Others aside, just the appearance of the woman hardly seemed reliable, nor did she resemble a nascent soul immortal in demeanor. However, despite his thoughts, he still bowed respectfully. Greetings, true immortal. Greetings, true immortal. Lu Miaohuan also quickly composed herself to show her respects. She was a bit shocked that her children's master looked like this. Although she had never met a nascent soul immortal, and scarcely seen even Foundation establishment cultivators, in her subconscious mind, she had always believed that nascent soul immortals were supposed to be transcendent beings with an appearance of deep wisdom. Now, seeing her son's master shattered that image. With a posture languorous from intoxication, not to mention her voluptuous milky white legs openly crossed, creating an inviting curve at her hips. Her long black hair was casually loose, with a few strands likely wet and disarrayed from wine, and her clothing a bit untidy showing off her delicate collarbones and flushed, fair skin. To say this was a luxurious, indulgent lady of high stature, she could understand. But to say this was a nascent soul immortal. Master, this is my dad, this is my mom, and this is my auntie, whom you have met before. They came to Jinyang's sect to visit me. Lu Qingshan, facing his master, introduced them openly. Although he also felt his master was not quite dependable, hardly resembling other core formation highbrows, over the years, he had grown accustomed to it. Greetings to the three Taoists. Tianyuan True Immortal, hearing this, descended from the giant gourd, her lazily casual manner transforming into a dignified and majestic presence, nodding lightly as a gesture. She then looked somewhat surprised towards Lu Miaoga and said, Lu Taoist, you're planning to go back? Replying to the True Immortal, my husband, my sister, and I came to see Qing Shan and Qing Zhu. Now that we see they are well, we plan to return. Lu Miaoga, graceful and gentle, her demeanor like flowing water, bowed slightly. We are grateful for your efforts over the years. Since Qing Shan and Qing Zhu are under my tutelage, I will naturally cultivate them well. Lu Taoist can rest assured, Tianyuan True Immortal replied. Since the three Taoists are here, why not come inside for some tea and rest a while before leaving? Since that's the case, well, trouble the True Immortal. Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoga exchanged a glance, nodding and responding. Subsequently, the six of them entered Jinyang's sect and proceeded to Tianyuan Peak. After arriving at the Grand Hall on the peak, Tianyuan True Immortal briefly talked about Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzu's situation over the years and asked how the three had come and planned to return. From the conversation, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoga could feel that the True Immortal's invitation for a casual chat was purely out of politeness, considering the children, and not really from any genuine interest in conversation. Faced with this, after a few brief exchanges, the three courteously bid their farewells. At that moment, Lu Chongxing remembered the 3 jars of liquor he had made using the spiritual ice spring water stored in his storage bag. He took them out of the storage bag and said, I see the True Immortal enjoys drinking on regular days. This is a small token of my own making. Please accept. Oh! Yen Yuan, hearing this, looked at the liquor before her, slightly surprised. Then with a smile she nodded. Since that's the case, thank you for this kind gesture, Lu Taoist. If you encounter any troubles in your country, you can use my token to contact the Jinyang sect base and send messages to me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 818. This true person seems unreliable. Although she didn't value the wine, Lu Chongxing had expressed goodwill toward her, and she, a nascent soul immortal of great renown, naturally wouldn't take advantage of others. Many thanks, True Immortal. Lu Chongxing and 2 others bowed to express their thanks. Afterward, the 3 of them said a word to their children and then left Jinyang's sect, preparing to board a spiritual vessel to return to Jiang country. Lu Chongxing, Lu Miaoga. Yen Yuan muttered to herself after Lu Chongsheng and his companions had departed. She had once met Lu Miaoga. Although the impression was not deep, there was still some memory. It was clear that the other party had changed drastically from those years past. Not only had she broken through to Foundation establishment, but the transformation in her appearance and demeanor was also like heaven and earth reversed, her aura gentle as water, embracing all things, tranquil and pure. If she hadn't encountered her in such a situation, she would hardly believe this was the Qi Refinement junior cultivator she had once seen. As for Lu Chongxing, she didn't feel much. After all, it was their first meeting. Although he was strikingly handsome and possessed an ethereal demeanor, making a good impression on her senses, that was all. Instead, She felt that her disciples' parents were both so gorgeous, by comparison, they slightly paled. She didn't dwell on it further. Her round oval face with jade-like luster returned to a lazy, casual demeanor, glancing at the 3 jars of wine that Lu Chongqing had brought. Although she paid little attention to this wine, her wine gourd was an exotic treasure. It not only had the ability to independently store different wines, but it also had the effect of nurturing and fermenting them. It could enhance the wine, making it increasingly rich and elevated in grade. Pop, pop, pop. As the wine jar was opened, a rich and fragrant aroma immediately filled the hall, seemingly enriching the spiritual energy in the air. Is this second-tier spiritual wine? Yan Yuan looked at the clear green, crystalline wine in the jar with a hint of surprise on her face. She hadn't expected the wine Lu Chongqing gifted to be quite good. She picked up a jar of wine and directly tilted her head back to take a big gulp without any care for appearances. Then, smacking her lush lips, she said, "Too bland, too sweet, what kind of wine is this? It's like what women drink, simply wasting materials." However, this person's wine brewing skills are indeed rare. This wine is almost a second-order superior. If it is well preserved and fermented, it might even reach quasi-third order. While talking, she took out her own wine gourd and drew the wine from the 3 jars in front of her. By then, whether in terms of combat power or speed of travel, it would be a qualitative change, and he wouldn't need to rely on taking a spiritual vessel. Moreover, if his children really missed home then, he could also bring them back to live any time. "Wife, I feel that Tian Yuan True Immortal is a bit too carefree, lacking the demeanor of a true immortal. It seems somewhat unreliable and offbeat. Will Qing Shan and Qing Zhu under this true immortal's guidance also become so carefree?" At this, Lu Miaohuan whispered. Although it was not good to speak ill of a true immortal behind their back, she really wasn't at ease about Tian Yuan True Immortal, worried he might lead her children astray. Cough cough. Perhaps this is what a true high-level cultivator is like, unbothered by trifles. In many stories, wandering high-level cultivators are just like this. Lu Chongqing gently coughed twice and said. He didn't have any rose-colored glasses towards nascent soul immortals, thinking they should be a certain way. Like Xiahou Wuwa, this patriarch Xiahou, a false core immortal, when faced with death, was still panicked and discomposed. Like Hong Lian, still a nascent soul true lord. Yet in his presence, she showed no demeanor of a true lord. Thus Lu Chongqing felt that nascent soul immortals were just like that, merely having higher cultivation, and there was no need to regard them as some highly revered god or goddess. Sar the Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. It was normal to have a bit of free-spiritedness. However, he did think this Tian Yuan True Immortal, when serious, appeared like a fully ripened, dignified, and stately noblewoman, yet upon her appearance, she held a bit of the unruliness of a bad girl, giving people a sense of extreme contrast. As everyone knows, it is in these contrasts that a woman is the most alluring. I wonder what Tian Yuan True Immortal's spiritual root talent is like. Lu Chongqing couldn't help but ponder internally. If he could establish a closer bond, allowing her to take good care of his children, he as a father would be willing to make that sacrifice. Yet, thinking about how he was still a mere foundation establishment weakling, pursuing a core formation true immortal still posed quite a challenge. Alas, cultivation, I must devote myself to cultivation when I get back. Lu Chongqing let out a sigh and steered the spirit boat rapidly towards the direction of Ancient Moon Immortal City. Red Leaf Valley Marketplace. A spirit boat touched down. Mother, go slowly. Lu Chuanjin led his own mother and younger siblings off the spirit boat. He had previously taken benefits from his uncle, knowing his uncle wanted to see his mother and his younger siblings. But thinking of his uncle as a demonic path cultivator, it was problematic to bring him towards By Lake Mountain. Moreover, Chu Chang'e himself did not want his sister to know he was still alive. His return this time was not for a siblings' reunion but simply to check on his sister's well-being, hoping she could have a better life. Thus, he opted to watch from a distance or observe his sister through another identity, which should suffice. After pondering, Lu Chuanjin suggested finding a reason to invite his mother and younger siblings to play in Red Leaf Valley Marketplace. By then, Chu Chang'e would join them for a meal and chat under the guise of a good friend. Is this Red Leaf Valley Marketplace? Lu Yuzhen and Lu Huaizhen, looking at the marketplace before them, curiously said. Although they weren't young, due to having no spiritual roots, they had never been to Red Leaf Valley Market before. That's correct. This is the cultivation marketplace. Yuzhen, Huaizhen, whatever you want to buy later, just go ahead, and mother will pay for it. Chu Zhenzhen, wearing a pale pink dress, her face gentle and affable, spoke softly. Now nearly 50, but due to consuming preserving youth pills and practicing lifespan-extending cultivation techniques, her appearance remained youthful, looking merely in her late 20s, completely not showing that she was a mother of 4 children. At this time, together with her 4 children, she appeared just like an older sister. The 4 entered the marketplace under Lu Quanzhen's lead. At that moment, on the veranda of a tavern near the entrance of the market, Chu Chang'e, dressed in a black flowing robe, like a refined scholar, suddenly stood up, gazing towards his sister. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 819. The Cheating Lu Chuanzhen, 5 Elements Fruit Tree. Zhenzhen. On the tavern's upper floor, Chu Chang's eyes moved toward his younger sister, Chu Zhenzhen. Seeing that her face bore few signs of the years, always brimming with a happy smile, his dark, profound eyes revealed a color of contentment. All these years, his only concern had been this sister of his. He had hoped that his sister could live a happy, carefree life. But he knew it would be difficult. Because his sister had entered the cultivation world and became a minor qi refinement cultivator. Therefore, during his return, he had purposely prepared many heavenly and earthly treasures. Even a pig, if bombarded with these treasures, could reach the foundation establishment stage. As long as his sister and brother-in-law broke through to the foundation establishment stage, their life would have some guarantee. However, upon learning of the affair at By Lake Mountain involving his sister and her cheap husband, he instantly lost all desire to cultivate this brother-in-law. He decided to use the prepared elixir medicines and spirit fruits to cultivate his very satisfactory nephew, Lu Chuanzhen. Now, seeing his sister in such a state, he knew that much of what his nephew, Lu Chuanzhen, had said was not false. His sister had, indeed, lived quite well these years, not burdened by the toils of life. This slightly eased his displeasure toward his cheap brother-in-law. Otherwise, he would be tempted to directly find trouble with this cheap brother-in-law. Are these 3 Yuzhen, Caizhen and Huaizhen? Chu Chang'e then looked toward the handsome young men and beautiful women talking with his sister. Through their facial contours and a vague bloodline connection, he could confirm that these were the other children of his sister. He faintly remembered that 20 years ago, when he visited his sister at Qingzhou Mountain, there was only a little boy and a little girl by her side, and a baby in her arms. Unnoticed, these children had all grown up. Seeing these children, because of his affection for them out of association with his sister, his eyes also revealed a bit of warmth. So the novel, F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After all, he was destined never to have offspring in this lifetime. Now these children, too, were of the Chu family's bloodline. Chu Chang'e simply watched his sister's family without interfering, because he did not want to disrupt his sister's peaceful life. Since his sister thought he had died long ago, why bring the sorrow of another parting? Just then, as Chu Zhenzhen was speaking with her children, she seemed to sense something and suddenly looked up toward the tavern where Chu Chang'e was. She saw an elegant man in black robes drinking alone by the window. Lu Chuanzhen also noticed his uncle. Through their interactions over these days, he basically understood his uncle's thoughts, afraid of being recognized by his own mother. Yet he still pretended to be surprised and called out loud, "Daoist Zhao! Chuanzhen, is this a friend of yours?" Chu Zhenzhen, hearing her son calling out, said surprisedly, "Yes, mother, this is a good friend of mine from when I was traveling outside, he helped me a lot." Lu Chuanzhen spoke calmly and indifferently. Then, he transmitted a message to Chu Chang'e, suggesting they have a meal together or something. Hearing the message from his nephew, Chu Chang'e was silent for a moment, but still cooperated with his nephew's act, showing surprise and delight on his face. He then made his way downstairs to greet Lu Chuanzhen, struck up a conversation about old times, and invited Chu Zhenzhen and the others to dine together. During the meal, Chu Chang'e and Lu Chuanjun told stories about their experiences in the cultivation world that made Chu Zhenjun and Lu Caizhen and the others listen with faces full of wonder. Having learned from previous contact with Lu Chuanjun, Chu Chang'e did not talk too much with his sister, fearing she would recognize him. And so, Chu Chang'e passed himself off as simply visiting Red Leaf Valley Market after hearing about it from Lu Chuanjun, and now they were free to meet for tea and chat. Half a year later, inside the cave mansion at Red Leaf Valley Market. Boom! Lu Chuanjun sat immobile, circulating the 5 elements Kuanping technique. Suddenly, within his Qi ocean core, spiritual power surged tumultuously. A layer of 5 element spiritual light circulated around his body, and within the Qi ocean core, a small 5-colored fish swam back and forth, as if it could leap out at any moment and transform into a Kuanping, swallowing the heavens and earth. 9th level energy refinement. Lu Chuanjun opened his eyes, a smile appearing on his handsome face. Thinking of his experiences over the past half a year, he felt an almost dreamlike sensation. He thought to himself, just what kind of existence his uncle was. Not only did he possess so many heavenly and earthly treasures, but he also knew such profound cultivation techniques. He looked toward the black-robed man who was protecting him not far away, currently wearing a faint smile, and cupped his hands in a bow. "Thank you, uncle." "Hee, not bad. Now that your spiritual power has all been converted to the 5 elements Kuanping technique, breaking through to the foundation establishment will be a matter of course." Chu Chang'e looked at his nephew, nodding with a smile. As he spoke, he took a storage ring out of his chest and said, "Chuanjun, your uncle should be heading back soon. Keep this storage ring. Inside are 3 foundation establishment elixirs, 5 lifespan extension pills, 1 heaven replenishing elixir, and 2 5-element spirit fruits. You can consume the 5-element spirit fruit when you attempt foundation establishment to help enhance and solidify your foundation. The remaining heaven replenishing elixir and 5-element spirit fruits, gift them to your mother. If she really refuses to use them, then give them to Caizhen, or give them to your father. As for the other items, arrange them as you see fit." Chu Chang'e said softly. He also knew that his sister's having just broken through to the 6th level energy refinement was not due to a lack of resources in the household. On one hand, his sister's spiritual root talent was poor, only 8th grade. On the other hand, his sister genuinely lacked interest in cultivation. "Uncle." Upon hearing these words, Lu Chuanjun felt somewhat heavy-hearted. Though their initial meeting was full of suspicion and wariness toward this uncle, over the half-year, his uncle had treated him truly and selflessly, without expecting anything in return. Now that he was about to leave, it indeed made him reluctant to part. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Remember, do not practice the latter part of the Kuanping swallowing heaven demonic technique unless you've broken through core formation. Wait until you have broken through core formation and ensured your strength before considering practicing the Kuanping swallowing heaven demonic technique, or at that time uncle might teach you other techniques. Chu Chang'e continued to admonish him. "Uncle, Chuanjun understands," Lu Chuanjun said respectfully. Uncle Chu Chang'e taught him the cultivation technique divided into 2 parts. The upper part was the Yin-Yang 5 elements Kuanping technique, and the lower part was the Kuanping swallowing heaven demonic technique. Because of the difficulty of cultivation, he is currently only practicing a part of the Yin-Yang 5 elements Kuanping technique. He would slowly comprehend the Yin-Yang 5 elements Kuanping technique after his foundation establishment. The Kuanping swallowing heaven demonic technique, on the other hand, belonged to demonic techniques. Once fully practiced, the entire technique becomes the Kuanping devouring heaven demon god technique. This was also Uncle Chu Change's statement that he didn't have any profound orthodox techniques, only this technique that was both righteous and demonic. Perhaps considering he might not be able to return in the future, he therefore gave the entire technique to him. "All right, with that said, Uncle is leaving. Practice well at home, take good care of your mother and your younger siblings." Chu Chang'e hugged his nephew with some reluctance and patted his back. He had said that if there was trouble, his nephew could send him a message. Or what Lu Chuanjun would possibly achieve after his core formation. But he himself was uncertain about the future.
I'll see Uncle off.
Lu Chuanjun nodded and spoke softly. He walked out of the cave mansion with his uncle and then saw him off through the Red Leaf Valley Market. Chuanjun, take good care of yourself. Remember, do not be impulsive in any matter. Think thrice before you act. In this world, only your own strength is eternal. Chu Chang'e told his nephew. These were the words his master had given him years ago, and he had come to profoundly understand their meaning over the years. He now passed these words on to his nephew. After speaking, his figure turned into a streak of light that soared into the sky and then disappeared. Uncle, rest assured, I will break through core formation before the age of 100 and condense a superior gold core. Lu Chuanjun watched as his uncle left, clenching his fists, an expression of determination in his eyes. He knew how difficult it was to break through core formation before the age of 100. Moreover, to condense the legendary top-tier superior gold core. Only the unparalleled geniuses of immortal sex, the nascent soul seeds, had a hope to condense a superior gold core within a century. Half a year ago, let alone a superior gold core. Even achieving foundation establishment before the age of 60 would have been difficult for him. Even though he now possessed a 4th-grade spiritual root, and foundation establishment seemed close at hand, achieving core formation within 100 years was still extremely challenging and uncertain. But no matter what, he now had a goal to strive for and would work towards it. In the azure sky, amidst the winding clouds, an enormous spiritual vessel adorned with spiritual light was speeding through the air. Inside a guest room on the 2nd deck of the spiritual vessel, Lu Chongqing was embracing his 2 warm and fragrant wives, reveling in the joy of traveling thousands of miles in one day. Afterward, he held onto his wife's tender skin and shared intimate words. However, just at this moment, a stream of mana surged out of nowhere and entered his body, turning into liquid mana that flowed into his dantian, accompanied by a system prompt tone. Congratulations, host. Your first offspring has broken through to the 9th level energy refinement, thus earning 1 lottery chance. 9th level energy refinement? When Lu Chongqing heard this system prompt, he was slightly stunned and surprised. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 821. The Cheating Lu Chuanjun, 5 Elements Fruit Tree. How come not long ago, my son Lu Chuanjun advanced from the 6th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement? And now there's a child who has broken through to the 9th level energy refinement? What's going on? Are they not striving at home? The moment I leave for a trip, they begin having miraculous encounters, right? What's more, the 9th level energy refinement system even included a child money. He had thought that in matters of his children's cultivation, at least until they reached foundation establishment, there would be no new achievement bonuses. He didn't expect that reaching the 9th level energy refinement would suffice. Is it because the 9th level energy refinement is considered the highest level of qi refinement, that there's a treasure? Lu Chongqing muttered to himself. Then, with a slight stir in his mental spirit, he opened the system panel to view his son Lu Quanzhen's attribute panel. Name, Lu Chuanjun. Lifespan, 28/121. Talent, 4th grade spiritual root. Cultivation level, 9th level energy refinement. Talent, management competency, 61%. It really is Chuanjun. Seeing his son Lu Quanzhen's attribute panel, Lu Chongqing felt a slight pause in his heart, unsure of what his son had been through. He didn't scrutinize or ponder further but continued to be affectionate and intimate with his wife, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan. After all, during such loving moments, how could one be distracted and think of anything else? After a long while, we will probably reach the Azure Phoenix Immortal City in a few days. Lu Chongqing and his wife left their room to get some fresh air on the deck, gazing at the rolling sea of clouds outside as he spoke. We have been away from home for so long. I wonder how everything is back home. Lu Miaoge, with her ethereal beauty and temperament like flowing water, said. This trip had already lasted a year and a half. It was the first time she had ventured so far and for so long, naturally causing her some worry about the situation at home. Zi Xiao is keeping watch at home, and Qingzhou Mountain has Uncle and Mu Ping there, so everything should be safe and sound. You need not worry. Lu Chongqing held his wife's hand gently and spoke softly. He wasn't worried about the situation at home. After all, Mount Sumeru was there. And Hong Lian could be considered as half a nascent soul cultivator. He was now just eager to know what was happening with his son Lu Chuanjun. Not only did his spiritual root advance to the 4th grade, but he also surged from the 6th level energy refinement to the 9th level energy refinement in a short time. Truly astonishing. Even at his peak, he hadn't advanced so fiercely. After much casual chatting and breathing fresh air, the three returned to their room. Lu Chongqing then thought of the draw he had obtained, thinking inwardly, "System draw." A golden light spun on the pale red roulette. After 5 seconds, the roulette slowly came to a stop under Lu Changsheng's watchful eyes, and the golden light landed on treasure. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a 4th-order spiritual plant. 5-element spirit fruit tree. The reward has been assigned to the system space and can be checked by the host any time. A tree glistening with a 5-colored luster and laden with fruits appeared from the large roulette wheel, along with the system's voice. A 4th-order spiritual plant, 5-element spirit fruit tree. Upon hearing the system's alert, Lu Changsheng's heart skipped a beat. Had it not been for Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan still being present, he would have hardly been able to contain his excitement. A 3rd-order spiritual plant is referred to as a heaven and earth spiritual plant. So a 4th-order spiritual plant could definitely be considered a heaven and earth spiritual root. He had heard of the great name of the 5-element spirit fruit tree. The fruits borne by this tree, known as the 5-element spirit fruit, are also called golden core fruit. These 5-element spirit fruit not only raised the probability of core formation by 30%, but also helped in the formation of a high-quality golden core, making them extremely rare. There were even rumors that consuming these fruits during nascent soul formation could be somewhat beneficial. Lu Chongqing had never imagined that while he had always wished to draw a heaven and earth spiritual plant, he would directly receive a 4th-order spiritual fruit tree this time. And it was such a rare spirit fruit tree. Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With this 5-element spirit fruit tree, one could say his family could reliably produce nascent soul cultivators generation after generation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 822. When did improving spiritual roots become so simple? Spirit plant, 5 elements fruit tree. Grade, 4th rank. Description: the 5-element spirit fruit tree bears fruit every 300 years, ripe after 500 years. Consuming its fruit can condense mana, solidify the foundation, and greatly improve the chances of foundation establishment and core formation. It also has effects on enhancing core formation cultivation and magical power. 500 years to maturity, isn't that too slow? Lu Chongqing, looking at the introduction of the 5 elements fruit tree in the system space, couldn't help but shake his head. Even though he knew that 3rd and 4th rank spirit fruit trees took a long time to mature, often hundreds or thousands of years, he still couldn't help but sigh when he actually saw that his own fruit tree would only bear once every 500 years. After all, it had been only 32 years since he had embarked on the immortal path. He had yet to get used to the ageless nature of true cultivation. 500 years later, by that time I'll probably have reached the nascent soul, won't I? Lu Chongqing thought to himself. He felt that by the time this fruit tree bore fruit, he would probably have advanced to the nascent soul stage, where the 5-element spirit fruit would be of little use to him. This 5-element spirit fruit was destined not for him to consume, but for his wives and children to use in the future. Yuner previously refined the luminous treasure tree into her life-bound spiritual root, which allows her to produce luminous sweet dew through her own mana. Though the quantity is not much, it definitely allows for earlier fruiting. So if I refine this 5 elements fruit tree into a life-bound spiritual root for my family, perhaps it could bear 1 or 2 fruits ahead of time. Lu Chongqing thought about some effects of his wife Lu Miao's cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique. Although the heavenly longevity technique has no combat capabilities, besides longevity, it wasn't without its uses. A cultivator can sacrifice the growth of a spirit plant and their own progress in cultivation to induce the fruiting of a spirit tree. However, it may not be easy to plant and nourish such a 4th-rank spirit root. At the very least, it must be planted on a third-order spirit vein and be carefully tended. Lu Chongqing immediately realized that what he needed to consider was not the fruiting of the 5 elements fruit tree. Rather, he had to consider whether his family can even keep it alive. After all, theoretically, a 4th-order spiritual plant requires at least a 3rd-order spirit vein to survive. And a 3rd-order spirit vein could just barely keep it alive. To nourish it well was another matter. A lacking spirit vein not only affects growth but could also, through a single oversight, result in the death of the spirit tree. Bai Yun Peak currently has only a 2nd-order top-grade spirit vein. To advance it to the 3rd order might take forever. Lu Chongqing let out a breath. Upgrading a spirit vein was incredibly difficult. To upgrade his own spirit vein from 2nd-grade medium quality to high quality, he had spent 2 spiritual origin pearls. And that was when his spirit vein was already at the upper limit of 2nd-grade medium quality. If he wanted to quickly upgrade the current spirit vein to 2nd-order top grade, he would need 7 or 8 spiritual origin pearls, let alone upgrading to the 3rd order. Even if he were wealthier, it wasn't something to undertake lightly. Unless he was lucky and won some items from the spiritual eye spring in the system lottery. However, it might be possible to keep it alive within the Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven. Lu Chongqing pondered secretly. Although there were no spirit veins in the Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, Mount Sumeru could control the heavens and the earth on its own, distributing spiritual energy and forming regions similar to spirit veins within the cave heaven. So planting it within the Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven might just keep the 5 elements fruit tree alive. However, relying on Bai Yun Peak's spirit vein and spiritual eye spring, it might also be very difficult to nourish this 5 elements fruit tree, with substantial consumption. Never mind. I'll find a way when the time comes. I also don't know how the Mount Sumeru is doing after absorbing the Emperor's essence, whether the coexisting spiritual plants have been nurtured or not. Lu Chongqing exhaled lightly. He planned to put the 5 elements fruit tree in the system space temporarily, and wait until conditions were right before planting and cultivating it. By Lake Mountain. Lu Family Mansion. Oh, Chuanjin, you're back? Chu Zhenjin was delighted to hear of her son Lu Quanzhen's return. Mother. Lu Chuanjin, looking at his mother in front of him and thinking of the uncle who had just left, felt a slight heaviness in his heart. He understood his uncle's thoughts. Whether or not he achieved success on the immortal path, he only wished for his mother to live a worry-free and happy life. He sat down to chat with his mother, trying to relieve her fatigue and talking about amusing things. Then he took out the heaven-replenishing elixir given by his uncle and said, "Mother, this is a gift I got for you. It has effects for beautifying the skin and increasing cultivation." Hee hee, Chuanjin, you're so thoughtful. Sir the novel, F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Chu Zhenjin smiled happily when she heard her son's words. After all, her son not only took the time to visit his mother, but his siblings had gone out to play as well. Now, he also knew to come back home to visit her, which comforted her. However, looking at the dark jade porcelain bottle, she gently said, "Chuanjin, your mother doesn't need any elixirs right now, you shouldn't waste spirit stones. If you really want to make your mother happy, you should marry soon. Don't delay any longer. Let your mother hold your children at home. Your brother Yun got his 7th child on the way just last month." Chu Zhenjin's voice trailed off with a hint of grievance and envy. She had a good relationship with Lu Miaoyun. So seeing how obedient Lu Yun was, arranging 1 wife and 4 concubines, with 6 children, she felt very envious. Lu Chuanjin. Hearing this, Lu Chuanjin immediately felt a headache coming on. He usually avoided his mother exactly because she loved to bring this up every time they met. And with Lu Yun as a comparison, he didn't even know what to say in response. "Mother, I understand. Please take this elixir. I have something else to attend to. We'll talk more later." Lu Chuanjin set down the elixir and quickly found an excuse to leave. Chuanjin. Chuanjin. Chu Zhenjin watched her son depart as if he were escaping and showed a touch of sadness on her face. However, looking at the dark jade porcelain bottle on the table, her eyes still revealed a sense of relief. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 823. When did enhancing a spiritual root become so easy? In years past, her son would also give her, his mother, little gifts, but seldom would he give her elixir medicines. On one hand, the price of elixir medicines was somewhat expensive. On the other hand, Bai Lake Mountain lacked nothing in the way of elixir medicines for her. Each month, she even gave the elixirs allotted for her own cultivation to her son, Lu Chuanjin, and her daughter, Lu Caizhen. With the cultivation speed that Lu Chuanjin possessed, it could be said that his mother's contributions played a part in it. How beautiful these elixir medicines are! Chu Zhenjin opened the porcelain bottle and saw the heaven-replenishing elixirs inside, her gentle and amiable face showing a look of surprise. She might not have been greatly interested in cultivation, but over the years, she had gained a substantial understanding of the cultivation world. She knew that this kind of elixir medicine was no common product. It was extremely rare and precious. Chuanjin, Chuanjin! She hurriedly got up to stop her son, indicating that the elixir was too precious for her to use. But her son, Lu Chuanjin, had long since disappeared without a trace. Mother, did you nag brother about his marriage affairs again? I saw brother escaping on his flying sword in the blink of an eye. At that moment, her daughter Lu Caizhen, dressed in a light goose-yellow dress and with a cute face, came over with a giggling smile. Humph, your brother is already so old, can't I, his mother, mention it? Look at your brother Yun. Chu Zhenjin said somewhat aggrieved. All right, mother, don't be angry. This is the spiritual honey produced by the jade bees I've recently started raising. It's very sweet, and sister and brother both said it tastes good. You should try it. Lu Caizhen didn't pick up on the topic but rather like offering a treasure, took out a bee box and changed the subject. Originally, she had a bit of interest in beekeeping and Lu Chongqing naturally indulged her, getting her a few hives of flower bees. Although many hives had died, thanks to their rich parents and their relentless spirit, she eventually became a formal beekeeper. Usually, it allowed her to produce some honey for the family consumption. Mother, give it a try. Upon hearing this, Chu Zhenjin's face immediately broke into a smile, putting aside the matters concerning her son, Lu Chuanjin. She had remained happy all these years, having come out from the shadows of her family's annihilation, in part due to the presence of her loved ones and also due to her own forgetful and optimistic nature. It really is delicious. Chu Zhenjin drank a cup of honey water, her eyes curving like crescent moons in joy. Then, looking at the ink jade porcelain bottle in her hand, she said, Caizhen, this is the elixir medicine your brother gave you. It's said to have skin-beautifying and cultivation-boosting effects. Mother doesn't need it, so you take it and use it. This elixir appeared precious, and she couldn't bear to use it herself. She also knew that when her son and husband gave her gifts, they wouldn't take them back once given. So, she decided to let her daughter use it. After all, this daughter, like her, loved to play around and was not keen on cultivating, having only recently made a breakthrough to the 4th level energy refinement. Wow, what a beautiful elixir! Lu Caizhen also expressed surprise upon seeing the heaven-replenishing elixir inside the porcelain bottle. After all, not only was the elixir crystal clear and radiant, but it also seemed to have a life of its own. Its luster pulsated faintly, as if breathing, and threads of light flowed through it naturally. She voiced her refusal. Mother, since brother gave it to you, you should use it. It's okay, mother doesn't need it, take it. Chu Zhenjin said affectionately. Thank you, mother. Lu Caizhen didn't refuse any further and affectionately gripped her mother's wrist. By the way, Caizhen, how are things between you and Xuanji now? Chu Zhenjin gently stroked her children's hair and asked. She knew that her daughter Lu Caizhen was on good terms with Hong Yi's son, Hong Xuanji, and they were quite close. Mother. Lu Caizhen immediately behaved bashfully at that remark. Mother is just asking. Chu Zhenjin clung to her daughter's arm and spoke with a coquettish tone. Azure Phoenix Immortal City. We've finally arrived. Lu Chongqing, his wife Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan gazed at the city before them, disembarking from the ancient moon spirit ship. It would be another 2 months before the spiritual vessel from Azure Phoenix Immortal City was due to return to Qingyun Market. But Lu Chongqing still planned to take the spiritual vessel home rather than pilot the spirit boat himself. After all, there was no rush over these few months, as traveling by spiritual vessel was much safer and more relaxing. The three rented a courtyard in the inner city and then leisurely picked out some gifts for their wives and children back home. Lu Chongqing also planned to purchase a large amount of demon beast skeletons, demon beast blood, and demon beast crystal cores, among other materials. Because of its proximity to the myriad beasts mountain range and the large number of loose cultivators around, demon beast materials were generally 30 to 40% cheaper in Azure Phoenix Immortal City than in other places. Whether for talisman making, crafting beast-shaped puppets, or as Hong Lian suggested, for medicinal baths, the majority of the raw materials came from demon beasts. Just then, a thick mysterious vibration surged through Lu Changsheng's body. Lu Chongqing paused slightly. He knew this was the fluctuation of a spiritual root. But he had no children being born, and for his grandchildren, unless it was a top-grade spiritual root, there wouldn't be such an effect of a spiritual root enhancement. His mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked at the system. There was an increase in his grandchildren, but no spiritual root was listed. Search * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Could it be Chuanjin again? Lu Chongqing looked at his son, Lu Chuanjin. There was no change in his attributes panel. This left him somewhat surprised, and he began to review the attribute panels of his children. After about a quarter of an hour, he finally found out which of his children had a boost in their spiritual root. Name, Lu Caijin. Lifespan, 25/93. Talent, 5th grade spiritual root. Cultivation level, 4th level chi refinement. Talent, beekeeping compatibility, 38%. Is it because of Chuanjin? Lu Chongqing looked at his daughter's attribute panel with a slight frown, guessing it had something to do with his son, Lu Chuanjin. After all, not long ago his son Lu Quanzhen's 8th grade spiritual root upgraded to 4th grade, and now his daughter Lu Caijin had gone from 9th grade to 5th grade. Since when did raising a spiritual root become so easy? Lu Chongqing took a deep breath, somewhat baffled by the situation. Apart from the Hope Goo, he hadn't encountered any heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance a spiritual root. It had taken him a full 12 years to advance his spiritual root from 9th grade to 5th grade, and 17 years to progress to 4th grade. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 824. Since when did improving spiritual roots become so easy? But their children had made rapid progress to the 5th grade and 4th grade levels in just a short time. At this moment, Lu Changsheng's thoughts of returning home became even more urgent, wanting to understand what was going on with his children. By Lake Mountain. Inside a courtyard. In the practice room. This? Lu Caijin opened her eyes, looking at her hands, feeling the speed of her recent cultivation. She was astonished. After taking the elixir medicine her mother gave her, there was no noticeable increase in her cultivation level. She only felt a mysterious sensation throughout her body, as if, in some inexplicable way, her spiritual root had been enhanced. Then she attempted to meditate and cultivate. To her discovery, her cultivation speed was several times faster than before, leaving her utterly amazed. What kind of elixir medicine is this? It can actually enhance the spiritual root. The Defied. Website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Caijin muttered to herself, realizing the pill was extraordinary, and hastily went to find her mother. At the same time, Lu Chuanjin came to visit his own mother. After all, the heaven-replenishing elixir was of great importance. His mother would definitely realize something was amiss after taking it, and he needed to explain and instruct her. Chuanjin, do you have something to tell me? Chu Zhenzhen looked at her son coming to find her again and happily inquired. Her son was avoiding her all day long, coming over yesterday, and again today, which made her somewhat surprised. Mother, the pill I gave you, haven't you taken it yet? Lu Chuanjin looked at his mother and guessed that she hadn't taken it yet. Chuanjin, where did you get that pill? It looks very precious, and I thought it wasn't necessary, so I gave it to Caijin. Chu Zhenzhen spoke thusly. Gave it to Caijin? Lu Quanzhen's heart skipped a beat upon hearing this. Although his uncle had said that if his mother didn't want it, he could give it to his sister or perhaps his father. But there was only one heaven-replenishing elixir left, and if it really came down to making a decision, he would without question choose his mother, Chu Zhenjin. After all, it was his uncle's intention. It was for this reason that he worried his mother would refuse, so he made up a reason. But unexpectedly, due to an unfortunate twist of fate, his mother had given the elixir to his sister. Chuanjin, what is it? Chu Zhenjin looked at her son, sensing that something was not quite right. It's nothing, I was just asking. Since it's given to Caizhen, it's given to Caizhen. I have something to discuss with her anyway. Lu Chuanjin kept his expression calm, and with a faint smile, he responded nonchalantly. He knew that once his sister took the pill, she would realize the effects were not as expected, and he needed to explain and instruct her. However, just as he got up and hadn't even stepped out of the door, he saw his sister hurrying over frantically. Mother! Mother! Brother, you're here too. What kind of pill did you give to mother? After I took it, I felt like my spiritual root. Lu Caizhen saw her brother and immediately spoke out. Ah! Lu Chuanjin looked at his impetuous sister, smacked his own forehead and sighed. Then, in front of his mother and sister's attentive gaze, Lu Chuanjin explained without a change in expression. He stated that the pill was something he had obtained from a fortunate encounter some time ago. After taking it himself, his spiritual root was enhanced. Thus, after much thought, he decided that his mother should take the remaining one. This way, mother could cultivate properly, and perhaps in the future, she might even break through to the foundation establishment stage, providing more companionship for father and her children. But considering that his mother would definitely not want to use it herself, he made up a reason. The improvement of the spiritual root, Chuanjin. Actually, this elixir medicine could be given to your father. Your father's spiritual root is not good. If he could improve his spiritual root, future cultivation would be much easier. Chu Zhenjin's face showed a hint of regret. She wasn't pitying herself. She just felt the elixir medicine was more suitable for Lu Chongqing. Mother, brother. Lu Caizhen's hair curled softly, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of her clothes, feeling guilty for having consumed such a precious pill. It's okay, what's done is done. Concentrate more on cultivation in the future. Lu Chuanjin said softly, without blaming his sister. After all, this was his own oversight. He looked at his sister with a serious expression, instructing, Caizhen, the matter of the spiritual root is of great importance. You must never carelessly disclose it to anyone, understand? Brother, I know. Lu Caizhen nodded repeatedly. She had been cultivating for so long and had not heard of an elixir medicine or heavenly and earthly treasures that could improve a spiritual root. She knew that being privy to such information could easily cause trouble. After Lu Chuanjin had reassured his sister, Chu Zhenjin, anxious her son might be upset, whispered, Chuanjin, your mother has something to tell you. Actually, your father had given your mother a cultivation method called Heavenly Longevity Technique. Your aunt Lu Miaoyun is cultivating this technique. Once your father finds a spirit plant, your mother will be able to cultivate it too, so don't worry about her. Chu Zhenjin said softly, revealing the Heavenly Longevity Technique to her son. Heavenly Longevity Technique, by refining heaven and earth spiritual plants, has no bottleneck and doubles one's lifespan. Lu Chuanjin paused, somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected his family to possess such a cultivation method, but he was aware of how rare heaven and earth spiritual plants were. It was already quite fortunate that his father found one for his aunt Lu Miaoyun. However, finding another for his own mother to cultivate would likely not be easy. There are still 4 years left until the Purple Shadow Secret Realm opens. Now that I am at the 9th level energy refinement, if I concentrate on refining my technique during this period, perhaps I could find a heaven and earth spiritual plant when I venture into the Purple Shadow Secret Realm. Lu Chuanjin narrowed his eyes, murmuring to himself. The Purple Shadow Secret Realm opened once every 30 years. Upon learning of this secret realm, he had planned to break through to the 7th level energy refinement before its opening and take his chances exploring it. Now, hearing his mother's words and having reached the 9th level cultivation level, he also felt confident in visiting it. 2 months later, Lu Chongqing, accompanied by his wives and concubines, boarded the spiritual vessel and set off on the return journey to the Qingyun region. On this trip, He also planned to ask Li Feiyu whether he wanted to return with him. But after learning that the latter had been out and not at home, he let out a slight sigh. As he had guessed, Li Feiyu's mentality had been somewhat influenced by himself. He was preparing for one final effort in the next few years. With a substitute talisman, Feiyu should be able to escape if he encounters any danger. Lu Chongqing stood on the deck, contemplating. But as he gazed at the overlapping peaks and the endlessly extending Myriad Beasts mountain range, his heart lurched, realizing a problem. A substitute talisman could form a puppet substitute to take one's place in the face of life-threatening danger, then transport the user 1,000 miles away. However, this transportation was random and not under the user's control. Li Feiyu, who had long honed his skills in the Myriad Beasts mountain range, might be randomly transported even deeper into the wilderness if he used a substitute talisman. And deep within the Myriad Beasts mountain range, not to mention energy refining cultivators, even those at the foundation establishment and nascent soul cultivation levels faced great danger. It shouldn't be that bad. Lu Chongqing shook his head, believing that after so many years, Li Feiyu's luck couldn't possibly be so poor. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 825, Li Feiyu, What a Coincidence. Myriad Beasts mountain range. Lush and leafy, the forest with its dense foliage covered the sky. Swish! 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 A tall middle-aged man in black armor dashed through the woods like a hunting leopard, his physical body tearing through the air and creating a long wave, like river water churning, stirring up a noise that crackled and popped. Roar! Just then, a demon beast's roar thundered out from up ahead, causing a fierce wind to blow through the forest and bringing with it a stench of blood. Damn it! Li Feiyu, upon hearing this roar, paused his steps, and a cold expression crossed his face, now looking somewhat unsightly. Li Chongqing, let's see where you can run to now. Two streaks of escape light shot towards Li Feiyu at this moment. One of them was a violet-faced, tall, 50-something-year-old old man looking at Li Feiyu with murderous intent on his face. Elder Zhu, with a second-order monster beast attacking now, if you insist on killing me, you could also be in danger if that beast gets entangled with you. Li Feiyu looked at the old man and said solemnly. The two were both loose cultivators from Azure Phoenix Immortal City. They had formed enmity during a beast tide. Both at the 9th level of energy refinement, Li Feiyu was naturally not afraid of the other party, and even thought of taking him down someday. But who would have known that nearly 60 years old, the other party would make a last desperate attempt and actually succeed in achieving foundation establishment, and now they encountered each other in this mountain range. Even though he practiced magical dual cultivation, he couldn't possibly be a match for the other party, and could only rely on the terrain of the mountain range to flee. He still had some hope of escaping, but who knew that his luck would be so terrible as to encounter a second-order monster beast on the periphery of the Myriad Beasts mountain range. If you want me to withdraw, that can be arranged, as long as you hand over your storage bag, and we can cancel all our grievances, Zhu said with narrowing eyes. His attack on Li Feiyu was not only due to past vengeance but also because he knew that Li Feiyu was plotting for foundation establishment and had considerable savings. To break through to foundation establishment, he had not only spent all his spirit stones but also incurred a huge debt. Now without even one decent spiritual artifact, he naturally did not want to let Li Feiyu go. Boom! 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 In the midst of their conversation, the ground trembled. Out of nowhere, a huge black bear charged out from the forest. The bear was sturdy, standing tall on its hind legs, several meters high, and emanated an overwhelming and foul stench. No good, this is a mid-grade Earth-level bear demon, the Black Fiend Bear. How can an Earth-grade bloodline monster beast appear on the outskirts of the mountain range? The three of them, upon seeing this black bear demon, all changed in color. On the outskirts of the Myriad Beasts mountain range, although second-order monster beasts roamed, it was rare for Earth-grade bloodline monster beasts to appear. Even high-rank bloodline monster beasts were not common. Such Earth-grade bloodline monster beasts had combat abilities far surpassing ordinary foundation establishment and were tremendously difficult to deal with. Moreover, once the Myriad Beasts mountain range made too much of a commotion, it might even attract other monster beasts, which was very dangerous. This black fiend bear has an Earth-grade bloodline. Inside it, there might be a special monster core. I'll call for people now. We might even make a small fortune. Upon witnessing this scene, Zhu He made a quick decision, formed a gesture incantation with his hands, and his mana surged within him, creating wind barriers around him to envelope Li Feiyu and cut off his escape, hoping to draw the black fiend bear's attention. He then transformed into a streak of escape light, taking his Dao companion and turning to flee, ready to leave the myriad beasts' mountain range. Damn it! Li Feiyu's eyes turned fierce, his expression dark and ugly as he quickly invoked a protective aura and then slapped his storage bag, taking out a golden light barrier talisman to use, trying to make a break for it. Roar! The black fiend bear let out a roaring howl, its massive body, like a small mountain, crashing down with a thick black aura. CTH Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Faced with this terrifying force, the golden light around Li Feiyu shattered instantly. Just then, the substitute talisman on his forehead burst into flames, unleashing a mystic force that enveloped his body. Whoosh! Soon after, the world spun around him, leaving behind a dazed Li Feiyu. Deep within the myriad beasts' mountain range. A valley amidst a range of perilous peaks. This place was filled with several terrifying presences. In the midst, there was a strikingly beautiful woman, with sharp and distinct features, emanating a sharp and domineering air, dressed in Qingjin armor, standing atop a cyan bird. Her figure was tall and imposing, her eyes blazing like stars, her hands clasped behind her back as if she was a spear supporting the heavens and the earth, radiating a piercing and authoritarian presence. This person was none other than Jiang Kingdom's #1 independent cultivator, the city lord of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, the Azure Phoenix Immortal. At this moment, the Azure Phoenix Immortal was looking down at the valley in front of her, discussing something with a few cultivators beside her. Around the valley, cultivators and array masters were controlling formation flags and working on something against a huge cliff face. Chapter 826. Li Feiyu. What a coincidence, right? Li Feiyu's body stiffened, his heart heavy, and his mind whirled rapidly, considering what he should do in the current situation. After all, he had appeared here out of nowhere, and if he couldn't provide a reasonable explanation, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to leave alive. He saw Azure Phoenix Immortal's cold and sharp eyes looking toward him, and his heart trembled. He immediately bowed and said, "This humble one, Li Feiyu, pays his respects to City Lord." Just that look from Azure Phoenix Immortal filled Li Feiyu with terror, feeling an intense suffocation. It felt like a simple shift in her gaze could kill him. You recognize me." The Azure Phoenix Immortal stood with her hands behind her back, her tall figure imposing, and her voice calm and indifferent. This humble one had the fortune to see City Lord during the Beast Tide. Li Feiyu's body remained rigid, as if there were thorns on his back, as he bowed respectfully. "Why have you come here?" The Azure Phoenix Immortal continued to speak. As a nascent soul grand cultivator, she had sensed a surge of spatial mana fluctuation the instant Li Feiyu appeared. The fluctuation was faint, but no matter what, it was not something a mere 9th-level Qi refinement cultivator like him could touch, so there definitely had to be a secret. Especially considering he had appeared right here. At this moment, Li Feiyu had absolutely no idea how to explain. He couldn't just say that a talisman given to him by a good brother randomly transferred him here. Could he? Even if he said it, the other party wouldn't believe it. Just then, he noticed the surrounding scenery and the mountainside below him, and his heart skipped a beat, feeling inexplicably familiar. This is the entrance to the ancient relic site indicated by Changsheng's treasure map. Azure Phoenix Immortal is leading people to break the formation, trying to breach this ancient relic site. In this life-and-death situation, Li Feiyu's mind raced like lightning, remembering why the place was familiar to him, and realizing why Azure Phoenix Immortal was here. At this moment, he simply didn't know what to say. This was too much of a coincidence. He had actually appeared at the location of the ancient relic site due to the random transfer of the life substitute talisman. The only problem was that Azure Phoenix Immortal was currently digging and exploring this relic site. At that moment, a false core immortal by her side let out a light hum. Instantly, the energy and blood in Li Feiyu's body churned, and he found it hard to breathe, almost falling from the sky. He bit his teeth and forced out. To report back to City Lord, this humble one inadvertently obtained a treasure map from a cave mansion years ago, relating to an ancient relic site. This humble one is at the 9th level of Qi refinement, but with only a lower-grade spiritual root, foundation establishment is bleak, so I wanted to make one last effort through this relic site. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The reason I am here is because that cave mansion had a prohibited arrangement resembling an ancient teleportation array, and after countless trials, I finally triggered it, and then the world spun around, and I inexplicably appeared here. Li Feiyu, while speaking, felt the pressure around him dissipate significantly, knowing he must have guessed correctly. He quickly said, "To be able to meet City Lord here is this humble one's honor. I am willing to offer the treasure map and the information about the ancient relic site to City Lord." In the current situation, he knew there was only one choice he could make. That was to actively offer the information about the ancient relic site. The Azure Phoenix Immortal before him, as the master of the Azure Phoenix Immortal City and Jiang Kingdom's #1 independent cultivator, a highly respected figure, would have some regard for face. As long as he voluntarily offered the relic site, and if the information provided was helpful, she might be willing to take him along and perhaps even provide some benefits. "If your words are true, I won't be stingy with your reward." The Azure Phoenix Immortal said so. As a nascent soul immortal, she could tell that Li Feiyu was lying and not telling the whole truth. But, coming from the background of an independent cultivator, she understood his psychology very well. As long as Li Feiyu was willing to offer the information about the relic site truthfully, she was also willing to give him a chance. "Thank you, City Lord." Li Feiyu quickly expressed his gratitude, then narrated the information from the treasure map. Fortunately, he was a cultivator, with an extraordinary memory. After seeing the treasure map previously, he had remembered the details clearly. Outside Qingyun Market, Lu Chongqing released the spirit boat, and with his wife Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, they maneuvered the spirit boat flying towards Bihu Lake Mountain. After such a long journey, they were finally about to return home. At this moment, not only him, but also Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, felt somewhat emotionally stirred. Just then, Lu Chongqing felt a sudden premonition, an indescribable intuition emerging within him. In that instant, he sensed that a substitute talisman he had made had been used. For ordinary talismans, this would be impossible. But he had nurtured these life substitute talismans using the talisman nurturing method for a long time. They contained his mana, essence, qi, and spirit, creating a faint connection between them. The talisman being consumed triggered a spur-of-the-moment premonition in him. Could it be Feiyu? Lu Chongqing murmured to himself. His intuition told him that the talisman that had been used came from the direction of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Myriad Beasts Mountain Range. If this talisman was used, it means Feiyu has encountered a life-threatening danger. I hope he can be safe and overcome this trial. Lu Chongqing felt a heaviness in his heart. As his only friend in this world, his one and only good brother. Even though they rarely saw each other now, he still wished his friend would live well and get better and better. Chongqing, what's wrong? Lu Miaoge noticed Lu Chongqing was a bit lost in thought, and looking at him, her voice was gentle. Through the many years of living together, she had come to realize that her husband would occasionally become pensive, assuming he was burdened with worries. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 827. Li Feiyu. What a coincidence. There's nothing much, just feeling a bit excited thinking about going home soon. Lu Chongqing spoke to his wife in a gentle voice. This trip had lasted over 2 years, his longest journey yet, and he indeed was eager to return. Steering the spirit boat, the three of them returned to Bai Lake Mountain half a month later. Greetings to the mountain master. Greetings to the lady. My lord. Dad, Aunt, you're back? The guards at the Lu family mountain gate immediately greeted Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan upon their arrival. MHM. The 3 members of the Lu family nodded. They had kept their trip a secret, known only to Ling Zixiao and a few others. However, over 2 years had passed, and by now, the children and wives at home must have been aware. What's this about? Upon entering by Lake Mountain, Lu Chongqing immediately noticed some changes around his home. A series of villas and houses had been built along the banks of Bai Shui Lake. And around Lake Heart Island, water pavilions had risen. As for Lake Heart Island itself, it was enshrouded in a formation. It must be Sister Ling arranging the formation, making some changes, right? Lu Miaoge observed the scene and suggested. Although the Lu family's affairs were managed by the family head Lu Yun, such changes obviously weren't his doing but could only be the work of Ling Zixiao. It should be so. Lu Chongqing nodded slightly and did not dwell on it. He planned to inquire about it with Ling Zixiao later. Soon after, the three made their way back to the Lu family mansion at Baiyun Peak. The return of Lu Chongqing and the others stirred up excitement at home. Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenzhen, Ling Zixiao, and Lu Wangshu along with other wives and children, hurriedly came to greet them. My lord, Dad, Mom. Chu Zhenzhen and Lu Wangshu immediately rushed forward excitedly to embrace Lu Chongqing and the others. However, Lu Wangshu huffed at her father and embraced Lu Miaoge instead. Having been cared for by Lu Miaoge since she was a child, she called her mom directly and was very close to her. Hee. Lu Chongqing hugged his petite wife with a chuckle. He then embraced his wife Lu Miaoyun, holding each of them in his arms one by one, speaking to them with care. Little Wangshu, what's wrong? Aren't you happy to see Daddy? At that moment, Lu Chongqing turned to Lu Wangshu, who was displaying a come and indulge me expression, and laughingly said. Their daughter was growing up. Now, after 2 years, she was almost 15 and had blossomed into a graceful young lady, with traces of the young lady Xiaofan in her features. Her cultivation level also reached the 4th level of energy refinement. Humph, you went out to have fun without me and didn't even tell me. Lu Wangshu expressed her grievances with an aggrieved look. Daddy had business this trip. Next time I'll take you with me when we go for fun. Lu Chongqing gently rubbed his daughter's head and tenderly said, Come, Daddy has prepared a gift for you. You know how much I missed you. Lu Wangshu tilted her cute face upward, speaking in a pitiable tone. Hiss. Seeing his daughter looking like this, Lu Chongqing instantly felt a pang in his heart and was quite remorseful. He repeatedly apologized. Daddy is wrong, I'll definitely tell you next time. There's going to be a next time? Lu Wangshu's lips pursed slightly, pretending to be upset. No more. Lu Chongqing quickly said, turning to look at the smiling and laughing faces of his wives and children who seemed envious and swiftly changed the subject. Come, I've prepared gifts for all of you on this trip. While speaking, he took out the gifts prepared for them from his storage bag. After pacifying his wives and children with gifts, Lu Chongqing then took the time to chat with his wives and inquire about how they were doing, as well as the 6 babies before he had left. He had long been aware of the situation of these 6 newborns, 3 of whom possessed a spiritual root. Among them, 1 was 5th grade, 1 6th grade, and 1 7th grade. Later, during a casual chat with Lu Miaoyun, Lu Chongqing learned that the family had turned its losses into profits. Although the profit wasn't substantial, at least they were profitable. Moreover, not long ago, the golden armor bean mother had produced beans again. This time, it bore 9 golden armor spirit beans. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing's heart filled with joy. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Previously, he had given 8 golden armor spirit beans to his son, Lu Xianji, 3 of which were used to assist in daily puppet crafting, leaving himself with only 5. On this trip to visit his children at Yu Country's Jinyang sect, he had given his son, Lu Qingshan, 1, and his daughter, Lu Qingzhu 2, resulting in only 2 remaining in his hands. Now that the golden armor bean mother had produced beans again, his resources were abundant once more. Not only would his own puppet crafting be much easier, but Lu Xianzi's puppet crafting would also benefit greatly. After understanding the general situation at home, Lu Chongqing inquired about Ling Zixiao's condition. He learned that her health issue had been resolved, and her cultivation technique had shifted to the 12 capital demon divine technique. As he had surmised, the dragon roar physique began to show signs of recovery as she started her cultivation. He estimated that in another 3 to 5 years, the dragon roar physique would recover, impacting her condition. Zixiao, rest assured, I will find a way to completely solve it, Lu Chongqing solemnly said. Later, he asked about the situation at Bai Shui Lake. Lord, the spirit vein below Bai Shui Lake has been promoted to second rank. Ling Zixiao, dressed in a deep blue palace gown with a beautiful and elegant countenance, softly told Lu Chongqing. This was after she had completed the oceanic formation, enhancing the spirit vein of Bai Shui Lake to second rank. Lake Heart Island was now considered to be within the core area of the spirit vein. Under such circumstances, giving Lake Heart Island to the families visiting nobles, foreign apprentices, and servants for residents clearly didn't make sense. Moreover, Lu Chongqing had intended to plant spirit plants for Lu Miaohuan and Chu Zhenzhen to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. Therefore, she had vacated Lake Heart Island under the pretext of arranging formations. Houses along the lake shore were for the family's foreign cultivators, apprentices, and servants. Water pavilions around the island were for the visiting nobles to reside in. As for the core Lake Heart Island, it could be used to plant spirit plants, with family members personally overseeing it. Zixiao, you've been thoughtful, Lu Chongqing said, nodding in acknowledgement. He had planted the abyssal ghoul blossom inside Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, as there was temporarily no suitable location in the family. Now, with the second-rank spirit vein of Bai Shui Lake, the abyssal ghoul blossom could be moved from Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven to Lake Heart Island. This would also facilitate Lu Miaohuan's cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique. Zixiao, how has Su Ruyan been performing these years? Lu Chongqing continued to inquire. This pearl of the Su family had been imprisoned in their household for 7 years. Upon going out, he intended to offer her a pet beast, and now that he had drawn the heavenly demon phoenix as a spiritual pet, he also planned to fulfill the initial grand promise, allowing her to cultivate beast techniques with this spiritual pet. Su Ruyan has been quite obedient these years, Ling Zixiao said with an elegant smile, discussing Su Ruyan's years. The first year, she basically spent nurturing her pregnancy at home. After having the child, maybe she had resigned herself to fate, feeling a greater sense of belonging to the household. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing nodded. Having discussed most matters, he thought of his son Lu Chuanjun. However, he learned that Lu Chuanjun was not at home and was at Red Leaf Valley Market. Although his daughter Lu Caizhen was home, her lack of change in cultivation level meant she likely didn't know much. Immediately, Lu Chongqing tried to subtly express his concern for his son Lu Chuanjun through Chu Zhenzhen. Before long, Chu Zhenzhen voluntarily began to speak of their son's affairs. She also revealed how their son had brought elixir medicines for her, and expressed regret that she hadn't been able to offer them to Lu Chongqing. It's all right, it's good for Chuanjun to have such an opportunity, and handing them to Caizhen is just as well, Lu Chongqing said with a smile, cradling his beloved wife, planning to inquire further when his son returned. If it was simply a stroke of luck, as a father, he wouldn't ask too many questions. After all, everyone has their secrets, and his son was grown now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 828. Mount Sumeru Spirit Body. Distribute Spirit Plants. Blue Cloud Peak Summit. Mount Sumeru, has it been successful? Lu Chongqing looked at the sapling beside the Mount Sumeru tree, which was less than a meter tall. 2.5 years ago, he had planted this branch. Now, under Mount Sumeru's nurturing, the branch had transformed into a sapling. Its trunk shimmered with a weave of golden and jade mist, nurturing a rich vitality. Yet, beside the tall and majestic Mount Sumeru Tree King, it seemed quite unremarkable. Master. The voice of Mount Sumeru was ethereal and misty, like a gentle breeze or white clouds. It signified that the sapling had been nurtured into a coexisting spiritual plant, reaching the level of a third-rank heaven and earth spiritual plant. But without further nurturing from itself, it would be impossible to advance. It's fine, as long as it has reached the third rank, that's enough. Source. Web novel. Com, updated on N0New0. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing's face revealed a hint of a smile. In his view, as long as it could be used for the cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique, that was already sufficient. As for further growth, he did not need to consider it for the moment. By the way, Mount Sumeru, have you had any enhancement yourself? Lu Chongqing continued to inquire of Mount Sumeru. Search * the novel. F. Iyer. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He had given almost all the royal jelly to it and wanted to know if, aside from the coexisting spiritual plant, it had gained any advancement. Whoosh! A burst of white brilliance flew out from the Mount Sumeru tree and materialized into a dreamlike, faint figure beneath the tree. Seeing this ephemeral figure, Lu Chongqing was startled. He had asked if there had been any advancements, but what did turning into a sister mean? He was at a loss for words to describe the figure before him. It was extremely beautiful, but different from most of the women he had seen. Just like the voice of Mount Sumeru, it was tender and pure, elusive and dreamlike. A pair of eyes like golden jade shone brilliantly, yet not at all glaring, emanating a compassion for all living beings. A Buddha nature that made one's mental spirit calm and peaceful just by looking into them. Her hair, as pale as gold and jade, hung heavily to her waist, emitting a soft luster, adorned only with 2 bright and flawless green leaves. Her dress was very simple and elegant without any accessories. Just a plain golden and jade luminous skirt. The skirt was long, seeming very faint and ethereal at the hem, nearly invisible, floating in the air like a spirit, appearing sacred and dreamlike. Master! Mount Sumeru spoke, its voice as elusive as white clouds, very soft, now with a touch more tenderness than before. Hiss! Lu Chongqing couldn't help but shiver as Mount Sumeru called him in such a form. Originally, he thought Mount Sumeru's voice was quite nice, with a compassionate, melancholic quality, like an elusive celestial breeze. But now, as it had transformed into such a sacred and pure figure and called him master, he even felt as if his own heart and soul was somewhat sullied. Subsequently, Mount Sumeru indicated that it had a certain advancement in cultivation level after consuming the royal jelly. But, because it had been nurturing the coexisting spiritual plant, the improvement was not significant. However, its spirituality had improved significantly, and its primordial spirit was able to manifest the spiritual body, also becoming much smarter than before. Smarter by quite a bit. Lu Chongqing heard this, his mouth twitching slightly, not feeling much of an increase in intelligence from it. However, to give credit where credit was due, Mount Sumeru's aesthetic sense wasn't bad. He even saw a hint of Lu Miaoge, Xiaofan, Hong Lian, Su Ruyan, and Ling Zixiao in its appearance and figure. He wondered if the long-term presence of these ladies in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven had influenced Mount Sumeru's transformation. Will you look like this once you transform in the future? Lu Chongqing inquired subconsciously. Although Mount Sumeru, as a true spirit-level demon plant, would find it exceptionally difficult to transform, he didn't know why he somehow felt a faint sense of anticipation inside. I can transform. Mount Sumeru will listen to the master. Mount Sumeru stated. While there was now a tenderness in its words, its countenance remained unchanged, retaining its holy and pure demeanor. A pair of ancient, undisturbed, compassionate golden eyes seemed to make sinners lay down their butchering knives and repent. Forget it. Don't manifest your spiritual body usually. Lu Chongqing sighed. Being stared at by Mount Sumeru brought with it a sense of sanctity, making him feel absurdly irreverent. He felt his thoughts were too tainted, quite sinful indeed. Yes, master. Hearing this, the figure of Mount Sumeru dissipated and returned to the Mount Sumeru tree. Tisk, so much for being a lot smarter. Lu Chongqing shook his head, then entered the interior of the Mount Sumeru cave heaven. As soon as he entered the cave heaven, he saw Su Ruyan with her fire-red hair done up, wearing a red dress, helping a toddler take wobbly steps. Maybe it was because his heart had been cleansed by Mount Sumeru just now, but seeing this scene made Lu Chongqing feel a deep sense of guilt. Young master. Su Ruyan immediately approached and bowed to Lu Chongqing on seeing him. Although she had taken preserving youth pills in her early years, they had only been first and second grade. Having spent 7 years in this Mount Sumeru cave heaven and now having borne a child, she looked much more matured. The cold pride that used to be on her face had long since turned into a look of gentle obedience. Call me husband from now on. Lu Chongqing sighed softly, lifted her shoulders, and spoke gently. Yes, husband. Su Ruyan's delicate body trembled slightly, shyly uttering the words. What's his name? Lu Chongqing crouched down, looking at the toddler learning to walk in front of him. The child did not have the red hair like Su Ruyan, Quite normal, actually. It seemed that being a Foundation establishment great cultivator, his genes obviously dominated over the changes that came with Su Ruyan's cultivation technique. I was waiting for you, husband, to name him, Su Ruyan said with lowered eyes and subdued voice. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 829. Mount Sumeru Spirit Body, Distributing Spirit Plants. Since that's the case, let's call him Lu Qinsha. Lu Chongqing looked at his son, pondered for a moment, then said softly, Qinsha. Su Ruyan heard the name, thought of dust and gravel, and felt that the name was not auspicious, too humble. But she naturally had no words to refute Lu Changsheng's choice. She could only nod and respond, Thank you, husband. You've been delayed in your qi refinement for so long, it's time for a breakthrough to the Foundation establishment. Lu Chongqing picked up the child and whispered. Then he looked towards the system space. With a slight movement of his mental spirit, he extracted the heavenly demon phoenix from the system. Suddenly, a large bird that appeared golden, as if adorned with flame-like patterns, emerged. This heavenly demon phoenix was still in its juvenile stage, approximately the size of an adult peacock, majestic with a touch of naivety. Husband! Su Ruyan, having heard this, gazed upon the heavenly demon phoenix before her, her body trembling abruptly, her hands covering her mouth, nearly bursting into tears. Happiness had come too fast. Too unexpectedly. Years of effort, dreams, expectations, and perseverance came to simple fruition at this moment. Over the years, though she submitted to Lu Chongqing, she often regretted her rash actions of the past and questioned if it was worth it. But the words of her parents, her family, Ling Zixiao, and Senior Red Lotus kept her steadfastly persevering. Now, she finally reached this day. The day when Lu Chongqing recognized her. At this moment, her heart was filled with endless gratitude towards Lu Chongqing. Within this gratitude, however, were several complex emotions. There was admiration and awe, submission and reverence, and the humiliation from her early years of serving Lu Chongqing. Thank you, husband. Su Ruyan bowed in a salute. Although Lu Chongqing now allowed her to address him as husband, she still clearly positioned herself. Aware of the other's fearsomeness, she believed she could give herself, perhaps even take back. Indeed, these days you should cultivate well, and I will have someone take care of the child. Lu Chongqing gently stroked Su Ruyan's soft and shiny red hair and spoke. Yes, husband. Su Ruyan responded upon hearing this, looking at the heavenly demon phoenix before her. Through the beast technique, she could clearly sense that the bloodline grade of this heavenly demon phoenix was not merely of heaven rank, even subtly surpassing the cold blue dark turtle she had before. Furthermore, her two current pet beasts, the fire python tiger and the heavenly fire mink, were both of fire attribute. If she continued to integrate with fire attribute demon beasts, it could significantly enhance the power of her Foundation establishment's life-bound spiritual fire, the beast spirit true fire. Moreover, considering pet beast combinations, with two terrestrial beasts, she also needed a flying spiritual beast. At this moment, the heavenly demon phoenix given by Lu Chongqing, despite still being a juvenile, was practically a perfect fit for her current needs. How many heaven-ranked demon beasts does he possess? Su Ruyan couldn't help but sneak a peek at Lu Chongqing. She believed Lu Chongqing knew her needs, therefore he selected such a demon beast for her. It wasn't just her. The Hong Lian within the ancient beast-taming charm in the Sea of Consciousness felt the heavenly demon phoenix and woke up, astonished. This must be a phoenix bird with true spirit phoenix bloodline. Hong Lian exclaimed. Her affiliated power, Vermilion Bird Palace, had legends claiming its founder had connections with the true spirit vermilion bird. Thus, their lineage was quite knowledgeable about spiritual birds like phoenix and vermilion bird. Sarch ** the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. True spirit phoenix. Su Ruyan was amazed upon hearing this. She knew that any connection to true spirits like the phoenix or vermilion bird was extraordinary. The future of the demon beast, once it activates the trace of bloodline within, could soar to the heavens. Immediately, she saw Lu Chongqing leaving with the child, so she took a deep breath, hugged the heavenly demon phoenix before her, and entered the Chongqing Hall. She began to bond with the beast technique, intending to raise this heavenly demon phoenix as her life-bound beast. It is said that a short parting is sweeter than a new marriage. Having been away for over 2 years, Lu Chongqing naturally had to love his wives and concubines well. Over the next few days, he engaged in nights of passionate battle, countless entanglements, experiences so passionate and entwined that they are better left untold to others. If Lu Chongqing hadn't been robust, an ordinary person truly couldn't have endured. One must admit, having a wife and concubines does require sufficient capability. After loving his wives and concubines, Lu Chongqing also thought about getting down to business. He gave the abyssal ghoul blossom and the coexisting spiritual plants from Mount Sumeru to Lu Miaohuan and Chu Zhenjin. Casually, he checked on the condition and cultivation progress of his children. Father. At this time, Lu Pingon found Lu Chongqing. He reported his breakthrough to the 2nd level of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and his mastery of the Baogu method. 6th level Energy Refinement. 2nd level 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing knew his son wanted to go out for experiential training. After all, she herself knew that only if she succeeded in cultivation, she would be able to accompany her husband and children forever. Lu Miaohuan, too, was stunned. After all, she knew that Lu Chongqing hadn't gone anywhere when accompanying her and her sister outside. How suddenly did he get 2 heaven and earth spiritual plants? That's right, the other one is inside, Lu Chongqing smiled. Inside. The 2 women exchanged puzzled looks and surveyed their surroundings. The next moment, they saw a golden door appear in front of the Mount Sumeru tree. Come on, let's go in, Lu Chongqing said softly. The 3 of them entered the Mount Sumeru cave heaven. Wow! Husband, this is... Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaohuan were astonished as they looked at the scene before them. I wondered why I didn't see the palace just now. Husband, where do you, Sister Miaoga, and Sister Ling live? So there's such a big space inside the tree. Chu Zhenjin looked around Mount Sumeru cave heaven with amazement. Lu Miaohuan was relatively calmer than Chu Zhenjin, not making a fuss, but she also looked around with a surprised expression. This is the 2nd heaven and earth spiritual plant. Lu Chongqing led the 2 women to the side of the spiritual spring and pointed to the abyssal ghoul blossom. On regular days, the abyssal ghoul blossom was in a dormant state, dull in appearance, with only the flower on the ground. Now, as Lu Chongqing approached, the flower gently swayed, blooming with a charming luster, extremely beautiful and enchanting. What a beautiful flower! Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaohuan were captivated by the beauty of the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of them. Indeed, the current state of the abyssal ghoul blossom was very beautiful. This flower looks beautiful now but is actually quite terrifying, Lu Chongqing said so. Terrifying. The 2 women did not understand the meaning of his words. Huan. Zhenjin. Search * the novel fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. At that moment, Lu Miaoga heard the sounds and walked out of Chongqing Hall. She was surprised to see Lu Chongqing had brought the 2 women to Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, since Lu Chongqing had said that it was better for as few people as possible to know about Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, so she hadn't even told her sister. Sister Miaoga, sister, the 3 called out to Lu Miaoga. Hee. I plan to use this abyssal ghoul blossom for Huan to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. Lu Chongqing looked at his wife, Lu Miaoga, and spoke. Huan using this to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique? Lu Miaoga was startled upon hearing this. She had seen the abyssal ghoul blossom in action, swallowing a false core immortal whole, a terrifying scene indeed. She hadn't expected Lu Chongqing to actually plan on using such a terrifying demon plant for her sister to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. Huan, you should take a look at the true appearance of this flower before deciding. Lu Chongqing nodded, continuing to speak. Then, he asked the 3 women to step back a little to reveal the true form of the abyssal ghoul blossom. Search the novel fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 831. Auspicious Tree, Lee Family Sisters. CTH novel_fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But beside the spiritual eye spring, the abyssal ghoul blossom kept swaying and blooming with a beautiful and bewitchingly charming luster. As the stalks grew, a series of roots, covered with dark red thorns, broke through the soil next to them, like venomous snakes, gradually filling the air with the scent of blood. When the abyssal ghoul blossom had grown to almost 3 meters tall, its buds that were on the verge of blooming gradually opened up, resembling a deep abyssal black hole, capturing the soul and hiding endless horrors within. Chu Zhenzhen, upon witnessing this scene, had already tightly clung to Lu Changsheng's arm, a bit frightened. Lu Miaohuan was much braver than Chu Zhenzhen, her beautiful eyes carefully examining the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of her. She knew that with Lu Changsheng here, the abyssal ghoul blossom would not harm her. Husband, is this demon plant second rank? Lu Miaohuan asked. She could sense a strong demon qi emanating from this demon plant. That's correct. This abyssal ghoul blossom is currently a second-rank demon plant, and as for its grade, it has already surpassed that of ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. So using this demon plant to cultivate the heaven and earth longevity technique might bring some changes. I cannot be certain, but it won't be dangerous. If you don't like it, Huan, husband can find you another spirit plant later. Lu Chongqing held his wife's slender, jade-like hand and spoke softly. According to his estimation, cultivating the heaven and earth longevity technique using the abyssal ghoul blossom would surely be more effective than using ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. The only problem with using a demon plant for cultivation was its inherent nature. Like contracting a demon beast or refining goo insects, it was very troublesome and dangerous. A minor qi refinement cultivator, attempting to refine a second-rank demon plant into a life-bound spiritual root and erase its consciousness, would find it nearly impossible. Lu Chongqing dared to do this because he obtained the demon plant through a system lottery, so he wasn't worried about the demon plant backlashing. However, he was the only one willing to use such a rare heaven-rank bloodline demon plant for his wife's cultivation method. Husband, I like it. Lu Miaohuan immediately said clearly upon hearing this. The abyssal ghoul blossom in front of her was somewhat intimidating, but in her view, it wasn't too bad. She even thought that with such a variation, its abilities were quite decent. She and Chu Zhenzhen already knew a lot about the heaven and earth longevity technique through what Lu Miaoyun had told them. They knew that once they successfully refined it, they could not stray too far from their spirit plant or leave by Lake Mountain. In the future, they would also be unable to cultivate on their own and could only improve their cultivation level by nurturing the spirit plant. Also, all the spiritual power inside their bodies would be transformed into the vegetative power of the heaven and earth longevity technique. This meant that their mana would have basically no offensive power, leaning more toward life cultivation, nurturing the physical body and soul. The only function was to be able to control their own life-bound spiritual root, which meant the refined heaven and earth spiritual plant. Thus, seeing the abyssal ghoul blossom and thinking of refining it as her life-bound spiritual root, and controlling the demon plant, might also give her a certain fighting power. If her family encountered danger in the future, like the previous attack from Xiaofan money, she might be able to help. Of course, it was also the normal appearance of the abyssal ghoul blossom that she really liked. If it were as terrifying as its usual appearance, she would have to think twice. For example, the luminous treasure tree belonging to Lu Miaoyun was considered ugly by both Chu Zhenzhen and herself. Husband, what's inside this flower, can it open? Lu Miaohuan looked at the abyssal ghoul blossom, which was like an abyss and not yet fully opened, and asked out of curiosity. This flower is called the abyssal ghoul blossom, aptly named because it contains a prison within. Lu Chongqing began to introduce the abilities of the abyssal ghoul blossom. During his words, he held Chu Zhenzhen, who was a bit timid, in his arms to prevent her from being scared, and then asked the abyssal ghoul blossom to reveal its final appearance. The partially bloomed flower bud opened up completely. Inside, the stamens were like scarlet tentacles, covered with thorn-like teeth, and the mucus resembled blood, exuding a strong scent of blood. Even Lu Miaohuan, looking at the fully bloomed abyssal ghoul blossom, couldn't help but be shocked, feeling as if it was a true demon. If it weren't for the fact that she knew this was the spirit plant prepared by Lu Chongqing for her, She would not dare to stand in front of it like this. "Husband, I want this one," Lu Miaohuan said without hesitation. "Good, Huan Huan, I'm glad you like it." Lu Chongqing responded with a smile upon hearing his wife's words. As he spoke, the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of him returned to its original enchantingly beautiful appearance. He was actually quite looking forward to his wife Lu Miaohuan refining the abyssal ghoul blossom as her life-bound spiritual root. After all, the abyssal ghoul blossom was a demon plant, different from ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. Chapter 832. Auspicious Tree, Li Family Sisters. Chu Zhanjin showed a thoughtful expression upon hearing this. After contemplating for a moment, she raised her head and crisply said to Lu Chongqing, "My lord, how about we call it the auspicious tree, representing good fortune and a beautiful happiness?" After speaking, she looked at Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoga, wanting to know what they thought of the name. Not bad. This name is good, auspicious and everything as one wishes." Lu Chongqing smiled broadly as he patted her head, praising aloud. "This name sounds lovely." Lu Miaoga also sported a gentle smile and voiced her praise. Upon hearing these words, Chu Zhenxin's face immediately broke into a joyful smile. Immediately after, Lu Chongqing called Ling Zixiao over, preparing to visit Lake Heart Island. He had been home for so many days and had not yet visited Lake Heart Island to see what was going on. Several people walked out of Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven and came to Lake Heart Island. The entire small island was isolated by a formation, misty and indistinct. This was just a simple formation, without any protective effects, only meant to block external surveillance. However, upon entering, Lu Chongqing felt that while the spiritual energy here had reached second rank, it was quite forced. It was vaguely between first grade and second rank. This is the wife's effort to connect the water veins beneath by Shui Lake with the spirit vein beneath by Yun Peak. Ling Zixiao began to explain. Currently, Bai Lake Mountain and Bai Yun Peak were major sources of spiritual energy, not only possessing the Mount Sumeru Tree King. There was also her, Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoga, Bai Ling. 4 foundation establishment cultivators, barely enough. Therefore, she directed most of the spiritual energy from Bai Shui Lake Spirit Vein towards Bai Yun Peak. "Zixiao, you've worked hard," Lu Chongqing said to Ling Zixiao. He had previously considered this problem. With more and more people in his household reaching foundation establishment, and the cultivation of spirit plants, it was inevitable to face a shortage of spiritual energy. Now, the advancement of Bai Shui Lake to second rank temporarily resolved this issue. But in another 10 or 20 years, as the children gradually reached foundation establishment, if their own spirit vein could not advance further to third rank, the problem would definitely arise again. By then, they might need to find a new spirit land and establish a branch family. "Sister Ling! Sister Ling!" Just then from a courtyard, 2 young women emerged and called out crisply towards Ling Zixiao in the sky. One was 16 or 17, the other 23 or 24 years old, both with clear eyes and white teeth, like flowers, very beautiful. The 2 had similar features, probably sisters. "Xingrua, Xingyu, what are you doing here?" Lu Chongqing was a bit startled and surprised when he saw the 2 women. He recognized them. They were the sisters from Treasure Elixir Pavilion, whom he had temporarily stayed with when he first went to Jiuxiao Immortal City, Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu. Initially, when he met the sisters, he thought about having them purchase and procure some materials on his behalf in Jiuxiao Immortal City. However, since he had Ling Zixiao for this connection, the matter of purchasing in Jiuxiao Immortal City was left to Ling Zixiao. Thus, he had not been in contact with the sisters. After all, he was just a passerby in their lives. He didn't want to maintain too much contact and affect their lives. Unexpectedly at this moment, the 2 women had come to his home. Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu were startled when they heard Lu Chongqing's words. Then Li Xingrua looked at Lu Chongqing, her face showing surprise, somewhat uncertain as she said, You are Senior Yi?" "Senior Yi." Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan both looked at their own husband, thinking to themselves when he had been stirring up young girls outside. "Cough cough, it's me." Lu Chongqing, under multiple beautiful gazes, softly coughed and nodded in acknowledgement. Then he looked towards Ling Zixiao. Without having to guess, he knew that the presence of the two women here was related to Ling Zixiao. He speculated that Ling Zixiao and the two women must have been in correspondence over the past few years, hence the reason for inviting them to Bai Lake Mountain. Thinking that Ling Zixiao hadn't breathed a word of this for so many days, leaving him somewhat unprepared, clearly did this on purpose. Tonight, he definitely must properly discipline her. My lord, Xingrua and Xingyu are here at my invitation, and are currently visiting noble servants of Bai Lake Mountain. Xingrua is in charge of alchemy. Xingyu is an appraiser. With her black hair elegantly arranged and dressed in a deep blue gown, wearing a gentle smile, Ling Zixiao spoke gracefully and calmly. Welcome to Bai Lake Mountain. Lu Chongqing descended from the air, looked warmly at the two sisters in front of him, his demeanor as welcoming as spring. My real name is Lu Chongqing. Yifan was a pseudonym I used before. Greetings to Mountain Master Lu. The two women, seeing the figure in a green robe with a handsome and ethereal demeanor, called out somewhat nervously. Hee, no need to be so formal and polite, I was out on a matter before, and only returned these past few days. Lu Changsheng's face showed a slight smile, he laughed gently, his voice warm as he said. How did you come here? He continued to ask. We had some troubles in Immortal City, then upon receiving an invitation from Sister Ling, we took the Green Cloud spirit ship here. Li Xingrua now spoke less restrainedly, clear eyes and soft voice, she said. Sar the novel fire. Chapter 833. Auspicious Tree, Li Family Sisters. Lu Chongqing looked at Ling Zixiao and asked out loud. Right after that, Ling Zixiao led Lu Chongqing and the others to a central estate. At this time, Lu Chongqing also gave his wife a brief introduction to the Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu sisters. I went to Zhouxiao Immortal City before I left. Lu Chongqing spoke up and said. Truly fitting of our mountain lord of the Lu family. Wherever you go, people adore you. Lu Miaohuan huffed softly and pursed her red lips, speaking in a sarcastic tone. Hee. Lu Chongqing heard her words and didn't retort. He just smiled, wrapped his arm around Lu Miaohuan's slender waist, and warmly said, Huan, where are you planning to plant the abyssal ghoul blossom? I'm fine with anywhere. Lord husband, you arrange it. Lu Miaohuan said out loud. As it pertained to a second-order demon plant, she also didn't understand. The spiritual energy is abundant in this estate. It's all suitable for planting. It mainly depends on where you, Huan, think is convenient. Ling Zixiao said this from the side. In that case, why not plant it in the back garden here? Lu Miaohuan looked around at the situation and finally pointed to the front, where there was a riot of blooms and vibrant colors in the back garden. The abyssal ghoul blossom was also a flower and would be quite suitable in this garden. If anyone who didn't know better dared to come and stir up trouble, they would be turned into fertilizer for the garden. All right, since my Huan has spoken, what about here? Lu Chongqing pointed to a specific spot in the garden. After confirming the location, he turned into a streak of escape light and soared to the sky, flying towards Blue Cloud Peak. He then instructed Mount Sumeru to transplant the abyssal ghoul blossom there. While Lake Heart Island was also within the range Mount Sumeru could cover, in most cases, Mount Sumeru would not spread its consciousness throughout the entire Bihu Mountain. Yes, master. Mount Sumeru's voice responded, ethereal and soft. Then they saw. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, mist surged above the Bihu Mountain Great Formation, where countless azure and pale golden spiritual lights intertwined and flowed. Soon after, a pale golden beam of light fell upon Lake Heart Island. Master, it's done. Mount Sumeru's voice arose in Lu Changsheng's mind. Good. Lu Chongqing immediately flew back to Lake Heart Island, only to see in the back garden, the abyssal ghoul blossom had been serenely planted. Yet amidst all the gorgeous blooming flowers, the abyssal ghoul blossom still stood out conspicuously. It was so striking that one could instantly spot this beautiful and bewitching flower. Huan, from now on, this abyssal ghoul blossom is in your care. Lu Chongqing said to his wife, Lu Miaohuan. Thank you, Lord Husband. Xingrua may only be a first-grade top-tier alchemist, but as far as I know, she was already a top-tier alchemist 8 years ago, and she is only half a step away from second rank now. If Lord Husband were to guide and teach her, it shouldn't take long for her to advance to second rank, Ling Zixiao said. Speaking of which, she showed a somewhat teasing smile and said, "Moreover, my lady, in the letters, I did mention Lord Husband's circumstances. Their willingness to come to Bihu Mountain shows that they trust and have a good impression of Lord Husband. Just as long as Lord Husband takes good care of them on a daily basis, and later on you reopen the treasure elixir pavilion for them, won't they be utterly devoted to you, my lord?" Cough cough, what are you saying? I just regard them as juniors. You didn't even talk to me about this in advance. Lu Chongsheng was somewhat speechless upon hearing Ling Zixiao's words. He wondered if in his wife's eyes, he was the sort of person to expect things to fall into place upon a single meeting. Humph, Lord Husband doesn't even thank me, and now you're blaming me instead? Ling Zixiao glared at Lu Chongsheng and said with irritation. All right, I was wrong. Lu Chongsheng immediately spoke to apologize. Regardless of his own thoughts, Li Xingrua was young yet able to become a first-grade top-tier alchemist, which showed that she had excellent talent for alchemy. If he were to guide her well, it likely wouldn't take long for her to become a second-order alchemist. It would naturally be a great thing for the family to have another second-order alchemist. After all, it wasn't easy for a typical foundation establishment family to employ a second-order alchemist to serve them. And currently, the consumption of elixir medicines in his house was not small. Now, it's about time to reveal to others that I am a second-order alchemist, Lu Chongsheng thought to himself at that moment. He had already had rumors circulating about him neglecting his proper duties to research alchemy, puppets, and other skills. Many years had passed, and he felt he could take on another title as an alchemy master. After his chat with Ling Zixiao, Lu Chongsheng held a simple family banquet that evening, inviting Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu. Having not met for many years, and with Lu Chongsheng having transitioned from the former senior Yi to master of Bihu Mountain, the sisters were somewhat restrained. However, with the familiar Ling Zixiao and Lu Miaoyun present, the atmosphere became much more relaxed. During the banquet, Lu Chongsheng conversed casually, asking about the sisters' circumstances over the years to start the conversation. Then he discussed alchemy-related matters with Li Xingrua. Indeed, when discussing certain situations in the Immortal City and the topic of alchemy, the sisters became much warmer towards Lu Chongsheng. After the feast, Lu Chongsheng hinted as much and sent the sisters back, indicating that he would teach them alchemy later on. Through this simple family banquet, their relationship naturally became much closer. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Lu Chongsheng chuckled, grasped the delicate jade feet, and rolled over. How dare you, your concubine? Can't take it anymore, go find Miaoga. MMH. Well, go together. 3 days later, Lu Chongsheng took his son Lu Pingon and his nephew Hong Xuanji to Rui Prefecture. As his son was about to travel far, Lu Chongsheng was not stingy. Not only did he provide the family standard substitute talisman, but he also gave 10 first-grade high-quality talismans and 3 top-level talismans. As for a second-rank puppet, he did not provide one. Mainly because he didn't have spare time at home to create a second-rank puppet for this trip. Besides, it was not feasible to have a second-rank puppet for every child. It was too extravagant, and he could not afford it. Arriving at Rui County City in the Lu residence, Lu Chongsheng saw many unfamiliar children. Grandfather, grandfather, grandfather. His wives, children, and numerous young ones called out to him. The oldest child, the eldest grandson of the Lu family, Lu Xianming, was already 12 years old. But apart from a few grandchildren, he had not met most of them. Lu Chongsheng felt quite emotional about this. After a brief gathering, he chatted casually with his son Lu Wuyu, inquiring about the current secular family situation. The now 32-year-old family head Lu Wuyu, with a beard, looked much more mature than his father. He told Lu Chongsheng that the secular side's business was gradually stabilizing and some Lu family disciples had split off. However, bearing children and practicing martial arts were ancestral mandates, and even those who split off would carry them out. Moreover, all split-off families would send their 6-year-old children to the main family each year to check for a spiritual root. Lu Chongsheng nodded in response to his son's respectful and earnest report, not saying much more. Because listening to this, he felt a mix of emotions and had no idea what to say. He simply told his son to write if anything came up at Bai Lake Mountain. Having stayed in Rui Prefecture for 7 days, Lu Chongxing left with his nephew Hong Xuanji. He did not return to Bai Lake Mountain. Instead, he went to the Red Leaf Valley Market to check on his son Lu Chuanjun. After arriving in the market, Lu Chongxing did not visit his son Lu Chuanjun straight away. He first went to Red Leaf Peak to meet with Lu Yuanzhong and discussed family and marketplace conditions. When night fell, he asked the children in the market to come to the Lu family's courtyard to see him. Dad. Greetings, father. Currently, 8 Lu family's sons were managing businesses in the Red Leaf Valley Marketplace, and upon seeing Lu Chongxing standing tall in a green robe, with a commanding presence in the hall, they greeted him in unison. Lu Chongxing turned around and looked at these children, inquiring about their well-being with concern.